Want to welcome everybody to the September 9th, 1 o'clock public hearing on stormwater at MSBU. I would appreciate if everybody was silent in their devices and if everybody would rise for the invocation. Commissioner Kitchen will give that to us today.
Lord, thank you so much for the opportunity to gather this afternoon to discuss the business of our community. Thank you for letting us live in a country where we can freely do that. We just pray today that you would watch over us in these proceedings, that you would give us clarity of thought, that you would let us conduct our business in a civil manner, that everyone would have respect and decorum for each other. And Lord, we just thank you again, whether the sun's out or it's raining, for every good thing we know comes from you. And it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Everybody face the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
This is a special meeting of the Citrus County Board of County Commissioners this 9th day of September 2021. In attendance are Chairman Scott Carnahan, First Vice Chairman Ronald D. Kitchen Jr., Second Vice Chairman Ruth E. Shaba, Commissioners Jeff Kennard and Holly Davis, County Administrator Randy Oliver, and County Attorney Denise A. Diamond-Lynn.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And again, this is the public hearing on stormwater MSBU for fiscal year 21-22. Mr. Oliver.
Yes, today is the purpose of this is a public hearing to change the methodology, and Representative of GSG is here to give an overview of the presentation. It changes the methodology for how stormwater is funded from being directly related to property values to what we believe is a more equitable manner of the amount of stormwater generated. So with that, I would like to introduce first. Okay.
Sandy.
All right. Welcome.
What? Okay.
How are you today?
Good.
Good.
We get our bulb?
Yeah, they got a bulb.
Good afternoon. Sandy Walker with Government Services Group. I'm here to kind of give you an overview of how we got here. This project is, we're also working with John Minton from DRMP, and it's a cooperative funding from the South Florida Water Management District. So, basically, how did we get here? This project started in 2019, and it was a three-phase project. The first phase was a stormwater needs assessment report. So that was to identify the stormwater needs of Citrus County. The second phase is to develop a stormwater assessment program, an MSBU, which is a dedicated funding source to fund stormwater services. And then the third phase is implementation, which is where we're at today. On July 13th, you adopted an initial rate resolution, which set the maximum rates for this year at $58.84 per ESU, established the methodology that was in there, published notice on August 19th, mailed notices to all property owners on August 19th. There were over 74,000 first-class notices that went out to the individual property owners, letting them know how many ESUs were on their property and how much it was going to cost them if you do adopt at the $58.84. The county staff has maintained customer service phone lines for property owners that had additional questions about the stormwater MSBU that opened the day after notices went out, and they fielded several calls, a total of 577 calls, and then there were also some written objections and things like that. So, and then today is the final public hearing, which is when you make your decision on whether you want to proceed with implementation, at what rates, and the exemptions that you want. So, an overview of, next one. An overview of, just so you know, this is not a new type of funding. There's over 170 stormwater assessment programs in the state of Florida. 70% of them use an impervious area methodology, which is the same methodology that we have recommended and developed for the county. Each individual government has their own ESU value. The average ESU value is 2,579 square feet of impervious area. And the average annual charge throughout the state is about $94.08 per ESU. Next slide. So what is an MSBU, a stormwater MSBU? Simple, it's a charge imposed against real property to pay for stormwater services. It is a home rule revenue source, so it's not legislatively driven, it's statutorily driven. And case law says that there's two prongs that you must meet. First prong is it must benefit property, which the courts have said stormwater services do benefit property. And the second, it has to be fairly and reasonably apportioned. And like I said, 70% of the programs in the state of Florida do use the same methodology that we are developed for you. So what is a fair way to apportion the cost? It's based on the amount of stormwater runoff generated by the parcels. So what generates stormwater runoff? It's impervious area. So what is impervious area? It's the hard surfaces that prevents the water from being absorbed directly into the soil as it hits the ground. It's something that covers it. It includes roadways, and all citizens use your roadways. Building tops, rooftops, decks, driveways, walkways, patios, things like that. So who benefits from the stormwater services? The unincorporated area of the county, which covers 592 square miles. It does not include the city of Crystal River or the city of Inverness. And how do county residents benefit? They're safe.
I got a commissioner needs to ask.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
But I wanted to ask you about impervious surfaces because I wanted to ask you about impervious surfaces. Take a plaza, for instance. They have a parking lot, an asphalt parking lot, and if it is, from my research, properly cared for or cleaned, that the water can get through the asphalt. It's not as much runoff.
So you're talking maybe like a semi-impervious area?
Well, and could there be some mitigation involved with that?
There is a mitigation credit that I'll talk about when we get further into the presentation, and there's adjustment factors that if there's certain site-specific things that are going on with that property, similar
then
to
they-
a semi-impervious area,
Okay.
and they can provide the supporting documentation that supports why their runoff is different
Okay.
than what the typical parcel would see, then we can make adjustments based on that.
Thank you.
But that's parcel by parcel specific.
Okay. I was under the assumption that, all asphalt, it's impervious and it would be charged per, square
Well,
foot.
that's how we look at it to begin with.
Okay.
If the property owner can provide us something that's different, then we would look at it and make adjustments as necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner, at this time? Okay.
So how do county residents benefit? They have safe access to their properties through the roadways. It improves the water quality and meets federal and state permitting requirements that the county must meet. So what benefits, again, it's kind of redundant, some of these slides, but it's just to kind of get it, to let you know. So what benefits? It's a cost-effective and financially stable means of funding stormwater. It's a dedicated funding source, can only be used for stormwater services, can't be used for anything else. So it would help increase the level of services that the county is able to provide, reducing the pollutants in the estuaries, lakes, springs, and streams. Public safety is another important part of it, improves the conditions of the infrastructure to reduce the flooding issues, impacts on the stormwater, on the natural environment, locate any illegal connections and discharges, and enforcing the stormwater codes more proactively. Improves the conditions of the stormwater infrastructure, and again, the big one is improves the water quality and the flooding issues. However, this is a countywide assessment program. I want to make sure you understand that. So it's not going to be specific. If you have any basin-specific kind of projects that you may do, you may need to, those are more called capital assessments, and they would be isolated to specific neighborhoods that or basin areas. So this is for the countywide function of the stormwater. So what will the MSB use for? Stormwater improvements, upgrading the storm drains, street sweeping, cleaning of the stormwater components, public education, to improve water quality throughout Citrus County. As is-
One second, please. I would appreciate if everybody would, you be silent, do the presentation, and then once the presentation's over, we will open up the public hearing, and you'll be more than happy to come up and speak to the commissioners. But please, give her your attention at this time. Thank you.
So it improves your water quality throughout the Citrus County as mandated by state and federal law. You have NPDES permits requirements that you have to comply with. So it reduces the level of pollutant discharges, increases monitoring, and operation and maintenance of existing stormwater systems, and monitor and restore the health of water resources. So the impervious area methodology. What we did is we did a statistical sampling of the single-family residential parcels. Most of the programs have a billing unit based on this typical single-family parcel, and so you're no different. That's what we've done. We looked at a statistical sample of, we did a stratified random sampling technique. The technique was developed by an FSU professor, so the program that we did, so what we did is we saw what is the building footprint of the average single-family house versus the additional impervious area that is associated with that building footprint, such as the sidewalks, decks, walkways, things like that. So for the typical single-family house that has a building footprint in your county of 2,063 square feet, it has an additional 2,119 square feet of additional impervious area associated with that parcel, and therefore your ESU value, equivalent stormwater unit value, is 4,182 square feet. So that is that's your typical billing unit. So the next slide is ESU calculated based on rate classes. You have 3 rate classes. There's the single-family residential parcels, which are assigned based on a tier. It's impractical for the county to measure the impervious area on all of the single-family residential parcels, and that's why we used that statistical sampling with a validity of a 95% rate. So there may be some one-offs that don't fit into that model, but for the most part, they all do fit into that model. That includes your single-family homes and your mobile homes. Then the next rate category would be your condominiums, and they're based on a proportion of the condo complex. So what we did is we measured all of the condominium complexes and determined each's proportionate share. Residential, mobile home, and RVs is equally distributed amongst them because they all have equal access to the common elements and the additional impervious area. And non-residential would be based on the proportionate share of their building. So if they were 50% of the building, they would get 50% of the additional common element ESUs. The general parcels would be anything that is not considered single-family or condominiums. So it would include your multifamily, your commercial, your industrial warehouse, institutional, and government parcels. And they were all measured, and based on their actual impervious area measurements. And the way we measured it with infrared and GIS and aerials. We did that, and we divided their actual impervious area by the 4,182 square feet to determine how many ESUs that they have associated with their parcel. Undeveloped parcels are not charged. Now, that does not mean parcels that don't have a building on them. It means no impervious area on them. So you might have a vacant parcel in the eyes of how the property appraiser looks at it, because of it may be vacant residential or something like that, but it has a garage on it or something like that. So it does have some impervious area. So when I say undeveloped, I don't mean just they don't have a building. It means that they don't have any development. So the single-family residential tiers, there are 4 tiers, the small. So that is with a building footprint between 100 and 1,200 square feet. So based on the building footprint plus the additional assumed impervious area that is associated with that size of a building footprint, it is 0.5 ESUs, or at the $58.84 rate, it would be $29.42 a year. The medium, which is where the majority of your parcels are, it's 67.34% of your parcels are in the medium tier, so that's where the bulk of it is. You've got that nice bell curve. So that would be a building footprint between 1,201 and 3,100 square feet. So that building footprint plus the additional assumed impervious area would equal to 1 ESU, or $58.84. The large would be some parcels with a building footprint between 3,101 square feet and 6,000 square feet. That building footprint plus the assumed additional impervious area would be 1.7 ESUs, or $100.03 a year. And then the very large would be those parcels that, and it's 0.28% of the parcels. So all of those, since they are so vastly different, those were all individually measured. So anything with a building footprint more than 6,000 square feet got measured and treated as general parcel. We took their actual impervious area divided by the 4,182 square feet to see how many ESUs are assigned to that. So that's how that is. So what credits are available? There is a mitigation credit. Mitigation credits are for on-site systems that are privately maintained. They get a credit for it. So when they reduce the runoff or completely stop the runoff or treat the water before it goes into the county system, it's helping the county with their stormwater runoff. So they don't have as much maintenance, so therefore they get a credit. Right now, it's up to 50% credit based on the amount of impact that storm on-site system has. And also, too, right now, the mitigation credit deadline is October 1st. I believe staff is going to recommend you extending it to give the property owners a little bit more time to get in their applications. It's the first year. There's always getting ramped up. After the first year, it's not as much of an issue because they carry forward for years. So after they apply for it and it gets approved, then we would carry it forward from year to year. But I believe staff is going to ask to extend it to October 15th. And then staff will have,
October 30th.
okay.
October 30th. We're going to
Okay.
extend it to October 30th. I got a quick question for you, Sandy. How did we take into consideration like gated communities, Black Diamond, Citrus Hills, Terra Vista, that treat their own stormwater, and it doesn't go into any of the county system?
Correct. So what that would be is the homeowners association. Instead of each one of the individual homeowners applying, I think there were a lot of them from Arbor Lakes was one of them that
Arbor Lakes was
put
one.
a lot of them in there. So if they have their own privately maintained, the HOA should have the permitting information readily available to them because they maintain it. They have to have it inspected by an engineer and things like that. So they should have all that information. They should apply on behalf of the whole HOA, and once it gets approved, then what we'll do is we'll apply that mitigation credit, whatever percentage it is, across all the parcels that are associated with that HOA. So this way, only one application needs to be looked at, but all of the property owners will get it. So that's the mitigation credits. Agricultural properties is a state statute that if they have certain kinds of permits or best practice management that they do use, they would not be charged for their non-residential. They still would get charged for their residential. You don't get an exemption from ag exemption for your residential parcel on there, but you would get exempt from the other non-residential buildings. And all they would have to do is provide that information to the county, and we would go ahead and make that credit. The other one is parcel-specific adjustments. So if there's something that parcel has done that's modified on that parcel that makes it specifically that it doesn't drain or it drains at something less than, which would be, this is not impervious, it's semi-impervious, which cuts down on the drain off. There's a bunch of different engineering factors that may go into it. So, but if they have something parcel specific, they could petition for an adjustment. They would provide the basis for that petition and the supporting documentation that needs to go with it. Staff would look at that, review it, and determine what type of a credit they would get, and we would make those adjustments. That would be on a case-by-case basis, and it would have to come from the property owner petitioning for it in writing. So who is exempt from the stormwater MSBU? Right now, it is similar to the exemptions as the fire assessment. So first of all, you don't charge undeveloped parcels, so they're not getting charged anyways. They're just automatically, if they have 100 square feet or less of impervious area, they're not being charged. Government parcels are exempt right now, and institutional properties whose use is wholly or partially exempt from ad valorem taxes would be exempt. This, again, is similar to the fire, so it's a two-pronged test. The property must be wholly or partially exempt from taxes, and the property must be of institutional use. Other recommendations which are in the resolution that staff would recommend is to also providing a hardship exemption. The hardship exemption is based on HUD guidelines, different poverty level guidelines, that you have the same one that you use for fire. And if you do approve it today, we would piggyback off of those that already have a hardship exemption from the fire. We would go ahead and apply it to the stormwater, so they would not have to apply. If they don't have one already in existence and they meet those income requirements, then they could qualify for a hardship exemption. And again, we would apply it to both the fire and the stormwater. It's a two-pronged test. They have to own the property, so it has to be available for a homestead exemption, and they have to meet the poverty, the income guidelines. The other one is a VA exemption. Right now, I think you have 1,269 parcels that receive a VA exemption for their fire. And if you approve it today, we piggyback those and apply it towards the stormwater. That is my presentation. I know you guys have
Okay.
heard this time and time again, but this is really kind of to bring everybody back up to speed of where we're at.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Oh, I have a question.
Okay, well, I'm asking you again after.
On page 16 of your presentation, you prepared this report based on the current LOS credit, I
Okay.
am assuming, yes. On page 16, the current level of service will be $4,837,000, and that's how you,
So I think you're looking at a different presentation. You're probably looking at my workshop presentation, because
Oh,
this
okay.
goes up to 14, and I can
Oh,
go
okay.
get it if you want me to, or but you
no,
can.
it's the, how you came to these numbers. You based it on the $4,800,000.
Right, the budget for stormwater
And
at the
so-
current level of services divided by the number of ESUs that you have in your county.
Right.
And we did take some contingencies for mitigation credits. We know there are going to be some mitigation credits, so we applied some contingencies to the ESUs so that it would generate about I think it's like $4.6 million.
And that $4 million, you don't have to answer this because I know the answer is because of what our permit was for, of what we were projecting to do when the board applied for it in 2019 and then got the permit in 2020. So I'm just saying that so other people understand that. What my question is I think this is a hardship, and I was wondering, can 50% of the annual ESU rate be adopted? Like phasing it in or impact fees?
It's a
how we-
policy decision. This is a policy decision, just like your fire assessment. And annually, whoever is sitting up there at the time will make that decision. If you want, everybody has been noticed, and it's very costly to send out those first-class notices. So if you do decide to do something less than the 5884 notice rate, what I would recommend is that you adopt a fiscal year 21, 22 rate at whatever that lower rate is, and do a verbal modification to the resolution, we can get it fixed to adopt a maximum rate of 58.84. This way you could incrementally increase it without incurring that additional cost of noticing all property owners. All property owners have been noticed that it could go up to $58.84 without further notice, so they've already been put on notice. So if you want to keep that in place, you just adopt a lower rate for this year and then keep a maximum rate for future years. So then you could go up $2 or 50 cents without incurring that additional cost.
And Chair, I'm just trying to find some ideas to try to not make it such a hardship.
Okay, you got any more questions for? Okay, Commissioner Kitchen?
Yes, I'm just curious, we paid you all this money to do this study, which is very detailed. The whole concept of this was to have some type of structure. So when we look at the citizens, the folks that ask these questions, and they say, how did you come up with this? That's what your presentation was.
Right.
So my question was, if we were to adopt something different, why would that not be arbitrary and capricious?
You mean, you wouldn't be adopting a different methodology?
No, you came up with what the equivalent units would be.
Right.
Based on your study, based
Yes.
on your analysis. So to me, if we were gonna have to defend this legally, that's what we would use. If
Correct.
we adopted anything less than what you're recommending, to me, that's arbitrary and capricious. That says, well, I don't like 50, let's make it 20, or let's make it 15. Well, what's that based on? We know what the 58 was based on, but we don't know what
Right.
anything less is based
You-
on, so.
You would
I-
have to supplement it with the general fund or gas tax or whatever, some other non-restrictive fund. So,
Yeah, it's got to be paid for.
Yes.
It's just a matter of how.
Right, exactly.
And the whole concept of this, as I recall, Mr. Chair, was that we were going to find a method that funded this as a dedicated funding source. So we wouldn't have to go to the general fund and the gas tax and those other things. So to me, if it came out to be $10, that's what it was. If it came out to be $100, based on what the expert says. To me, this is no different than a water rate study or the landfill study or anything else. We just don't, pick a number out of the air and say,
No.
this is what we're going to charge. So, as we have those discussions, and I know the people that we've heard, or most of the letters we've received, are not happy about this, but that doesn't eliminate the fact that the problems are still there, they exist, and they have to be dealt with. So, to me, the questions that keep coming before me is when we did like the unification of the water rates, is like, is it fair? Is it fair? That's what keeps coming up. And I think based on your presentation, at least there's a defendable method that was used, and it does allow, as you know, I questioned you at quite length about the mitigation opportunities or whatever. So in my mind, whatever we do today just has to be based on something that we can stand in front of a judge or whatever and say, this is why, this is where the numbers came from, this is the study that supports it. And the same thing, when we go to constituents in the community and they say, what was this based on, we have this body of work to go to. So,
Okay,
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioners, any other questions? Commissioner Slabaugh?
I didn't just arbitrarily pick that number. The 4,800,000 and change is from the permit that was filed by the county in 2019. That's how you came to your equations and your methodology.
Right.
I'm saying in 2019, and then when we got the permit in August of, when the permit was approved in 2020, we were only collecting $1 million for stormwater. And so I didn't just pick a number.
Right.
If I did half of what you're proposing, we're still would be collecting 2 million, and then perhaps we could go to other sources to supplement that fund. I'm just throwing something out there because I happen to have trouble with this, and I appreciate it, but no.
Here's what I'm gonna tell you.
No,
You're gonna be quiet, we'll give you time to talk. And if those that are not gonna be quiet, I'm gonna escort you out of the room, okay? Let's give everybody their time. I will give everybody their time, but we're not gonna be disruptive. We're gonna stay in line here today.
I'm sorry, I'm
No,
sorry.
So thank you.
So that's how I came to it, and, you know, I'm just trying, so.
Any other questions? All right, with that, thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is what we'll do. We're going to now open it up to the public hearing. We will give you 3 minutes to speak to us. Once the public hearing is over, the commissioners then will discuss what we have heard, and then we will make our decision. So with that, if you want to come up, please fill a green card out. Please fill a green card out and hand it to our Madam Clerk here. So with that, the podium's open, and you're welcome to come up. Please keep it down. All right, we're still in a meeting. All right, give respect, please. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Please state your name.
My name is Tim Renard.
Okay.
I'm a commercial real estate appraiser, have been for 35 years. I spent 6 years at the property appraiser's office as the deputy of appraisal. And I have some good news for the citizens of Citrus County, and that is that there is an alternative to this massive tax increase. This proposal to raise $4.8 million is roughly equivalent to an assessed value of $320 million. If you were to divide that by 14.5 mils. But you want more money for sewer water education. I can tell you that 70% of the recharge that goes into the aquifer comes from the uplands and not the lowlands. But let me just get to the point of the alternative to this massive increase. And that is that we have this alternative at Duke Energy. And the reason I know this is because Les Cook, the former property appraiser, asked me to review the Duke Energy's cap rate proposal. And my first thought was it looked okay, but I said, let me study it for a bit. So I got back to him the next day and said, wait a minute, this is based on what FERC allows them to earn, not their weighted cost of capital. That change in the cap rate changes the assessment on their real estate values by $155 million. The TPP is twice that. So right there is your $300 million in assessed value, which would equate to well over $5 million. Now, I don't expect the current property appraiser to be able to find that. He claims to have a master's in business administration, which he does not. All he had to do to confirm that is call St. Leo College and ask him. He'll say, no, he does not. So he doesn't have the higher math, the accounting, the finance, the economics, and he's never done an appraisal in his life. So he's not going to be able to find it even if I pointed it out to him. So you need to find somebody competent
Mr.
to
Chair.
do the research.
This is not the place to take this up, for him to sit there and go after one of our sitting constitutional officers.
All right, you got 10 seconds to finish up.
I just wanted to say, you know, you're going to need to find somebody competent to find that information.
Wow.
Somebody
Thank you.
that has done appraisals for a long time.
Thank you.
Okay.
And
thank
again, I
you.
don't think this is a place for a political stand either, so. With that, next speaker, please.
Just the facts. Just
Next
the
speaker,
facts.
please.
Good afternoon, committee. Could I take 1 minute? I'd just like to show you a photograph of my property, so when I'm
Yes, sir.
speaking, you have the
You
opportunity
give
to
it-
understand.
Yeah, there you go. Give it to Madam Clerk.
Yes. If they could actually see it, please.
You can go right ahead.
Thank you very much. My name's Tom Cusey. I live at 649 West Fortune Lane. I'm a state-certified residential contractor. My home and property, when it was approved by the county to be built was engineered, and part of that engineering was for water. As you'll see, my property has a swale that goes across the front of it. That's only one of the swales that surrounds my property, over 200 feet of that swale. Not only does that collect my personal water from my house, I live at the bottom of a hill. Water from my upland comes into that swale. We all live in sand here in Florida. It perks very quickly. Out of all the rain that we've had, within 1 hour's time, that water disappears. All the people in this audience right now have the opportunity to take care of the water on their property if it wasn't taken care of properly when their house was built originally. I don't think an entity should come in and determine and also put their hands in our pockets to do something to their property. As a homeowner, it's my responsibility to take care of my water. As you can see on my property, it does that. I have no intention of paying $58 or any other money for something that I've already paid for, something that the county already factored into a permit from a house that was built in 2006. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Robert Finkelson, retired electrical engineer from FAA. And we did work with a lot of properties and things such as this. One of the things when I looked at the analysis or the calculation for ESU, one of the things that they neglected to take in there was the impervious to land ratio. For instance, if you have a 2,000 square foot home on a quarter acre of land, will have a much bigger impact than a 2,000 square foot home on 3 acres of land. So that wasn't taken into account. So is it fair that a person who has larger property, larger area that can absorb water should pay the same as somebody who's in a less populated? The other thing is Crystal River and Inverness are two of the most populated cities in this county. We all agree that. Why are they exempt? They have the highest impervious area than anything. You go to Homosassa, where we are, we got very little impervious areas except for maybe the downtown area. So why that is exempt is really kind of hits me hard because we're taking up the bulk of this cost. The other thing is we are on a private road, and if you look at anything west or east, of Route 19, as you get out through that area, you get more and more rural properties. Most of those roads are private roads. Like our road is a private road that connects to a private road, which is West Mindy, and then you've got Rachel Road. These are all private roads. We maintain these ourselves. The other thing is all of us are on well. Now, I don't know what the calculation is, I didn't look it up, but I would say that probably 40% of the population or households are on well water. That runoff that comes off our house is supporting our home. We don't get water from the county, we don't get water from the state, it's our own water supply. So you're essentially taxing us on what we need to survive. The last thing, and I'll come up with that, is a lot of these people in this county have solar panels on the roofs. Solar panels are impervious. So you're going to tax people on doing something good for the environment, providing green energy, and then tax them on the impervious area that the solar panels provide. These are things that are contradictory to that. There's other ways to tax this. And, you know, we all pay road tax. We pay gas tax. I know I paid an impact tax, a lot of impact fees when we came to this county and built a house. So there are other ways to tax that might be fair, but my concern big is Inverness and Crystal River, the two highest populated areas, not being exempt from that tax. That's all I got.
Thank you. Next speaker. Hey, Billy, how are you?
Good afternoon. I'm Billy Casey. I live in Citrus Springs. Now, when the Deltona Corporation laid out Citrus Springs, there's retention ponds are in place that captures all the runoff water. Now, if Black Diamond's got their gravel pit, they're going to use that as an exemption. Eventually, if you're smart, you will. Deltona Corporation laid it out. We have sandy soil. There is no runoff from Citrus Springs, and it's a large area. We're paying the bill for Crystal River, who's going to benefit from this, not us, because we're covered with a storm runoff. Now, this is a great dog and pony show with all the numbers and all the money that you paid to do this study, and it is absolutely the worst thing I've ever heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Next speaker. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good.
I think I'm just going to read my letter, which was my objection to this proposal. Please consider this letter as a written objection to Citrus County Stormwater Assessment Program, as presented in your notice of public hearing dated August 19. We object to the increase in stormwater taxes for the following reasons. One, we live in Pine Ridge, which has numerous water retention areas, and to this date, I have never seen any water in any of these retention ponds. However, we now receive notice that our stormwater tax assessment will increase from present 2021 tax of $24.49 to $100.03 in the following year. This is a $75.81 or 310% additional increase in our present tax. This is simply outrageous. Also, you propose to eliminate only a proportion of the present assessment, thereby not really gaining much. Please refer to the enclosed copy of Florida Senate statutes, which not only requires a referendum for public support for any increase, but also establishes a maximum of 3.75 mils, not an estimate of stormwater runoff. Two, how does Citrus County Code of Ordinance allow you to arbitrarily substitute an ad valorem tax, which is measured by property value, with an assessment related to roof size, etc., without a public referendum? Good question. I wish somebody would give me the published answer to that. We also refer you to the enclosed copy of a Missouri Supreme Court decision, Zigwig versus Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District. I lived in St. Louis at that time. This happened in November. The decision was made by the Missouri Supreme Court, November 12, 2013. I sent a copy in with my objection, so you should have a copy of that Supreme Court decision. In that decision, the Supreme Court told Metropolitan Sewer, you can't do it. First of all, you can't take a tax and turn it into an assessment, which is exactly what you're doing here. Also, this decision relates to the same exact type of proposed increase measured by roof size as you're presenting in your notification. We strongly recommend you read this decision. It's a very good decision. It's good reading, and it really has some strong intuitive points as to why a government subdivision cannot arbitrarily turn a horse into a zebra without a lot of paint. And that's what you're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Chair, for the record, can I please get his name?
Your name, sir?
Oh, Mike Roush. And by the way, let me,
Thank you. You're done. You get 3 minutes. Thank you. Okay. Next speaker, please.
Chair, may I make a suggestion? You may or may not take it, but I have a feeling that there are two very, very good points that a lot of people are going to end up bringing forward that we could just address up front, and that is Crystal River and Inverness already paying their own stormwater
yeah.
assessment. And number two, that if you have a functioning inspected stormwater system, you can apply for mitigation credits.
Correct. And Chris, I was going to bring that up later, but Crystal River and Inverness, they pay their own stormwater assessment if you live in the city of Inverness or Crystal River. So their residents pay their own stormwater assessment. And again, we went over the ways to relieve yourself from if you handle your own stormwater. So go ahead, sir.
Hello, my name is Mel Payne. I live in Inverness Highlands North, and I just real simply want to voice my objection to any new taxes. As a retiree living on a fixed income, I'm opposed to any new tax. More taxes just means I have less money to spend for enjoying my retirement years. Since these taxes are not on a ballot that we get to vote for or against, then I only see that our only alternative is to vote against any reelection of any of you guys that vote in favor of increasing taxes.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hey, John Woods. I'm live in Citrus Springs, a retired Army officer. I, like many other paying property tax owners, taxpayers in the Citrus County, received a letter from the Citrus County Land Section informing us that our taxes are going to be increased due to stormwater runoff being considered a major source of pollution. I understand the tax will not include the incorporated cities. It's incredible how smart stormwater is. It knows where the city limits are. According to information I gathered via the internet, commission aides, Citrus County Land Section, Southeast Water Management District, the assessment, it appears that leaves, animal waste, cigarette butts, fertilizer, and vehicle leaks are the pollutants. Because I called, and that's what I was told. I have perused the county's assessment, and it's evident that the department kicked the proverbial can down the road, and now their procrastination has caught up with us, only to be exacerbated by the boondoggle of Highway 19. The letter that was sent out is misleading and appears to be a scare tactic, telling us we're going to have our title taken away if we don't pay it. It claims the stormwater is a major source of pollution in Citrus County, and hence the need for a tax increase, or even includes the sentence that failure to pay will result in a loss of title to your property. Yet nowhere in the proposal's table of contents, list of figures, or list of tables does the word pollution occur. However, the proposal does go into detail regarding repair, maintenance, DRAs, desilting, mowing, weed harvesting, and so on. And let's not forget the section on expanding the department with more staff, vehicles, office space, and benefits. This whole ordeal reeks of government incompetence. The letter appears to be a red herring to cover up the real problem, which is the failure of those charged with repairing, maintaining, and planning for our future requirements failed to do so. This stormwater situation did not just develop overnight, and I'm sure those in the stormwater industry are well aware of the regulations and problems. So why the panic at this time? The assessment appears to have taken numerous hours to research, compile, and at what cost to the taxpayers. And what did the assessment cost the taxpayers? Perhaps the time and money would have been better spent writing a grant request, planning for incremental tax increases, and using the existing budget. And now the taxpayer's piggy bank is to be raided again. Currently, my stormwater assessment is less than $4, and now you demand I pay $55 more per year? I can see a small increase, but this is outrageous. The legal standards either knew or should have known. You should have known that this was going to be a problem and notified the taxpayers of Citrus County. Why you didn't is a travesty, because now you want to reach into our pockets and take some more money out of our hard-earned money for a problem that could have been avoided. I don't get to send a letter to the military, VA, or Social Security and demand more money. Likewise, the county should be on a budget and act accordingly. Stay within a budget and stop demanding the taxpayers dole out more money for government employee incompetence. We don't have any more to give, nor do we want to give you any more. You need to have the bean counters sharpen their pencils and find other funding sources so as to not further burden those on fixed retirement incomes for taxes. I stand opposed to this.
Thank you, sir.
Well,
Next speaker. You're welcome.
My name is Ron Silva. I live in Citrus Hills. Most of my questions have been asked and some answered. This $4.86 million is a pretty big number. My question is we build more houses, does this $58 per house go down? Because the runoff seems to not really be affected all that much by the houses. It's mostly roads, impervious surfaces. But the rainwater off of my house goes into my rain gutters, which go into a pipe that goes into the ground that I put in. So that might be a credit I can ask for. But the truth is, are you guys going to, if you implement this idea, which I think is ridiculous, are you going to reduce the cost as we build more houses? And maybe you could just suggest to people that they do something with their own runoff, because most of the runoff on my property is off my roof, which I direct into the ground. Now that's a pretty simple and not a very high cost way of dealing with water runoff. Now I come out of construction, so I knew what to do when I built my house. But with all the regulations that the county likes to put on new houses, roof strapping and all this, this is a very inexpensive way to deal with runoff. And 90% of the runoff comes off your roof. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for being here today. Next speaker. Welcome.
Hi. My name is Patrick Sullivan. I'm here to speak against the new tax that's being proposed. For county commissioners who claim to be Republican, one of you claiming to be a descendant of a revolutionary, you aren't acting very constitutional. You can't stand here and just tell us you're going to create a tax out of thin air without giving us, the people, the right to vote on it. We may be represented by you, but you forget that we're also your bosses. My property taxes were tripled this year, and you're wanting to create a tax just because my roof is blocking rainwater from getting into the ground, but exempting people who live in the city, where the ground is covered everywhere. I happen to wonder where all of you might live. If you're going to exempt yourself from this tax that you're creating on us, maybe you forgot it was unfair taxes that started the Boston Tea Party at the beginning of our nation's founding. So let me tell you something. The time of the ruling establishment Republicans is over. We'll replace each and every one of you with money-loving Republicans with grassroots constitutional conservatives, and I might just be one of them. The Republican Party is changing, so you better change with it.
Thank you. Welcome.
My name is Ken Murr, and I'm not a public speaker. I'm not a slick-talking politician. I'm not a lawyer. I have common sense. And this is a Green New Deal. However you look at it, you can talk all the lawyer talk you want. We don't need any new taxes at this time in our. We're surviving by this nothing right now. Our government's killing us, and you're going to kill us more on top of it. But I could promise you one thing. I'm not smart like a lawyer, but we're going to follow each one of you that vote to pass this New Deal, and we're going to campaign against every one of you. And I want you to remember, we will remember in November. We have groups here, and I could ask the people, go ahead and shake your head and smirk, because you look down on us like we're peasants. We're not peasants.
Personal attacks. This is a personal attack.
You need to talk to me.
All right, we're not
Say what you
peasants, and we're tired of being taxation without representation. That's what I'm trying to say. And we're going to have to either represent us, or you could smirk, and we're going to vote you out.
Okay.
And we're going to stand up to what we say.
Thank you.
And we're not going to forget. So remember, in November, anybody in?
Perfect. Thank you.
That's right.
Well, here's
called a
what I'm
smile.
going to
It's called
tell
a
you.
smile.
You know, we are voted in to do a job. We have a job to do, and I'm not intimidated by you're going to vote for me or not vote for me. Unfortunately, we've got to make tough decisions. So thank that. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is John Dallimore. I live in Mini Farms. I have a little map right here. I'd like to
Give it to the
hand it
clerk
to
right
somebody here.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm just representing myself, but I also drew a map which shows an area where the stormwater runoff goes nowhere. It goes into the ground just like Mother Nature said it should go. We have a ridge that runs along Hazard Street. The railroad, there's a ridge. We're in a little valley. We're in a bowl. And I think that I should be exempt, my neighbor should be exempt from this tax. I mean, I'm sorry, gentlemen. I've seen wasteful money in the past in the state of Florida when it comes to floodwater and so-called pollution in our rivers and lakes, where municipalities, they were the ones that have created a lot of the problems. And all I'm asking for is that you really consider and exempting me and my neighbors that are in this area of the mini farms. Our water goes nowhere but where God said to put it, in the ground. It does not affect any rivers, lakes, ponds, springs, or anything. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Sabrina Watson. I just have a couple of questions. So it's my understanding that this is currently funded at about 4.8 million or something along those lines. And that this would add another 5.8 million, but it actually won't add 5.8 million because in reality, the 5.8 would be used for stormwater and the other 4.8 is going to get moved to a general fund.
No.
Okay, well, that's pretty much what Ron Kitchen said. But anyway, it's right here. It's attractive to see that we have 2.5 million in the general fund. It's on video. So my question is, with that original 4.8 million that was supposed to be used for stormwater stuff, What was it used for? Is there a manual? Is there a projects list? Is there something that shows us what that original stormwater money was used for? My second question is by the time we get done with all these exemptions, Crystal River, Inverness, the HOAs, churches, institutions, other nonprofits, agricultural and more, who's left to foot the bill? Okay? And then my last question is, with regard to the presenter, I keep hearing "we." Are they going to be somehow employed and paid by us to monitor something, anything, exemptions? Who are they? That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Zach Stivers, and me and my wife have just recently moved to Citrus County. We must have looked at hundreds of properties before we settled on the one we got. We live on the outskirts of Floral City and Derby Oaks. Our property is probably on the very back corner. It's the end of civilization on the back of my property. Water pools on my property, drains directly down in the sand, replenishes my well. I've had our groundwater extensively tested. It is polluted by iron, sulfur, and natural tannins, and that is it. I've spent $9,000, so my drinking water quality is better than most municipalities. The money part of this really doesn't bother me. I'm fortunate. I know most of my fellow residents aren't as fortunate. And that's what bothers me about this. We have elderly residents on a fixed income who look at the possibility of losing their house if they can't afford this. Where I come from in Indianapolis, we had a similar situation. Our septic, every time we had a torrential rain, our septic sewer system would back up into our storm sewer system, which would back up into our rivers and lakes. In order to fix this, we had to bore a tunnel a mile underground, 5 miles long, in order to retain the septic sewer waste and hold it until the system could accommodate it. People raised heck about it, said it wasn't fair because they were charging all the property owners and it was affecting the poor. What we ended up doing was adding the cost to the water and sewer bill. And anybody who was on city sewer or city water paid for the improvements. Anybody who wasn't didn't pay for the improvements. It's gone awesomely. I mean, yeah, your water bill and sewer bill are significantly higher. But like I said, I have no drainage off my property. I don't feel it's fair to pay for a service that I'm not receiving. There's not a county, storm sewer, anything within a mile, or running water, or any water for that fact, around my property. And I was sitting here and I wanted to say my piece, but I was kind of struck by what you said about you're not intimidated when somebody says they're not going to vote for you on a decision you made. I have a problem with that. Fortunately, unlike most of my fellow residents, I have the means to do something that you will pay attention to. I can drive to Tallahassee tomorrow with a sizable check, and I'm not talking $100 or $1,000, tens of thousands of dollars, that I can give to our governor with the only request that the county state board of auditors will come down here and crawl in your business with a microscope. I don't want to do it. I'd rather build a pool, even though I know you're going to tax me for it. But I'm just saying what fair is fair. I'm paying for services already that I'm not receiving. Solid waste disposal. I pay for my own trash. I haul my own stuff to the dump, and I have a septic system.
Okay.
Why am I paying for that?
Are you finished?
Yes, I'm
Thank
finished.
you. All right, thank you.
Chair, could we not address the fact that this is for all the
We'll-
county roads as well?
We'll address
Because
that.
people.
We'll address that at the end.
All right.
Go ahead, next speaker.
Afternoon, my name is John Gattone, I live in Kensington Estates. I'm retired and I oppose this tax because, like the commissioner says, I think it's a hardship on all us retirees. And the rain, it hits my house, goes right off my house, and like other people, right down into the ground. So I feel that this is malarkey. You know, 2 years ago, you said you were going to fix the roads. The roads are still terrible. You know, and I don't know. I just don't believe it. So, thank you.
Thank you for being here. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Philip Rusk. I live at Forest View Estates, Homosassa. I'm here representing 9 people within our community. We own our homes, but we don't own our property. Sun Community owns our property. So we're being taxed directly by Sun Communities. So at that, I just simply want to read in the letter they sent to us. The county outlines notice that there is no way to gain mitigation credits. There is a way to gain mitigation credits and have lesser or full pardon from paying the additional tax. If we can provide proof of a permitted storm water treatment facility, or if we have a parcel in which it does not drain off the site to any part of the county's current storm water system, then we can potentially be waived from this assessment. As you may or may not be aware, our community's storm runoff runs directly into the waters in the community's ponds, with nothing structured to go into the county system. With this, Sun, we have been working with an engineer and land development company to obtain this work credit. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
I'm Dennis Filger. I live north of Crystal River in the county. And I'm really not here to educate you. I'm here to shame you for even proposing this process, because what you're doing is an end run on the taxpayer. This money has been raised for years through the tax rolls, but you know you can't get a tax increase through. So you're going to take the money out of that and claim then that you cut property taxes, and then you're going to charge us 900% more. Nobody in the county that I've talked to can tell me how much money we even took in through the tax rolls for wastewater or stormwater. And nobody can tell me how much we actually spent, and that includes the stormwater people, which tells me you're not managing it anyway, whatever money you're taking. And now you're going to go from what I calculate to be about $500,000, I think, Ruthie, you said $1 million is what we bring in now, to $4.5 to $5 million, which is about a 900% increase, depending upon what number you use. It's still way too much. And you're keeping the taxpayers from having a say in it. What's wrong with the way you've been raising money for stormwater all along, except for the fact you can't get a tax increase through? Shame on you. This is a regressive assessment that you're doing. Many of people in this, including my next door neighbor, who's 81 years old, been retired for 20 years, is now recovering from heart surgery and bypass replacement, valve replacement, and had to recently pay $5,000 because he was forced to connect to the water supply system because they put a pipe down our street. Shame on you. That's $5,000 he could have used for his medical bills that he now has to pay. Everybody that's retired here on a fixed income and has been retired, the longer you've been retired, the higher this is a percentage of what they take in. And who even knows if it's tax deductible? I know my property tax is tax deductible, but I don't know what these assessments are. Shame on you, every one of you. And we will remember you in November.
Thank you.
Anybody who votes for this.
I don't believe there is an election this November.
Welcome.
Hello, my name is Wayne Gerke. According to my paper, I live over in Sugar Mill Woods, but I have a house in Stonebrook 55 plus community, okay? All of our stormwater goes into our ponds, goes into our retention ponds. Nothing goes out anywhere else, it just goes into our ponds. The two things I'd like to ask is, number one, why is Crystal River and Inverness exempt from this? I mean, maybe I can understand about Inverness, a lot of their stormwater goes into, to the ponds over the lake over there. But I still don't understand why. If this is supposed to be a county assessment, then why is not all people in the county being assessed this? So I'm against this, pure and simple. And number two, in the Stonebrook 55 plus community, basically that's what it is. You have retired people there. They cannot afford this. They can't afford another $5.8 million. And number two is, I can understand that, okay, so much of this money will go to storm assessment. And the other money goes to a general fund. I understand about general funds. I used to live in West Virginia. General funds basically went into a black hole, and that was it. And it's whatever else the commissioners or whatever else the state decided they were going to do with it. So that's my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'll clarify, there's no money going in the general fund. The millage rate has been dropped to zero. The MSBU is earmarked for stormwater. That's where it will be used. So there's no money going into any general fund from this at all.
All right, thank you.
How are you, sir?
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Excuse me,
Need your name?
I just have, my name is Randy Hudson.
Thank
I
you,
live
Randy.
just outside the Crystal River city limits, and it's La Jolla, whatever it is here, La Jolla something, La Jolla Palms. And you guys did a State Road 19 project, and all of the water from State Road 19 now comes back into the La Jolla Palms area. So we retain all of your stormwater on our properties now. It runs straight down the road, right into our properties. We don't have a drainage system back there for your stormwater. We don't have the city coming in and maintaining our roads or even cutting the side of the grass there, okay? But this is my biggest point. Why would you want to tax me for your stormwater? If somebody could give me an answer on that one, that'd be a great idea.
Okay.
All right, and thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you for being here. Next speaker. Next speaker.
Questions aren't going to be answered?
Next speaker. When everybody's done, we'll answer questions. Welcome.
Hello there. My name is Ryan Turner. I had a real long prepared speech here, but I think I can get this down pretty close. When I received your notice, I opened it up and I had a flashback to my life right after college when I went into public accounting and I was doing auditing. The first sentence told me that I was on the alert for scam because they called rainwater pollution. Now, those two are not equivalent. That is what this whole thing has struck me as. And if you go down through the thing, it talks about pollution here and there and answers questions about pollution in the back of the page, but it's really not about any of that. It is, for some reason, you decided to get a bunch of well-educated people together to figure out a way how to get money from people. That's all this is. You go to outside service, so you can blame them, you can hold it up in court, do all that, have a good time with it. But in the end, all you're doing is wanting money. So the question that I proposed to another gentleman here earlier was, when do you realize that your position comes with no limits to it? That you have to determine when it's appropriate to stop acting inappropriately. That's where you're at. This is one of those conditions. And it's obvious around everywhere you look anymore, what government, people who apparently are elected who think they have an endless limit to what they can do. This is not good. It really isn't. And you don't realize what you're working yourselves into. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome. My name is Joseph James. I live off of Citrus Avenue. On our property, we have a well, we have a septic system. We don't have any storm drains. Citrus County does nothing for us. We take care of our own trash, we take care of our own lawn. Hell, we even got to take care of our own road sometimes. So why am I getting taxed when I get nothing from any of you? What's his job? Is he asleep? It'd be nice if you were paying attention what we're all talking about. Oh my God, you know, they had the same tax up in Maryland, and they finally repealed it when the new governor came in, because the money, it didn't go for what it was supposed to go for. It was either wasted or stolen, and when the new governor came in, he abolished it. It'd be different if we could see where this money is gone, or where it's going to go. How much did that report, that lady? How much was that? Do any of you know how much that was?
We'll answer that question for you.
Okay, because I'd be curious to find out how much money you pissed away on that. I wish I would have taken notes. But all I can tell you is this has been a hell of a year, 2020. And with all the crap that's going on between COVID and rainwater and Joe Biden and Afghanistan and people coming across our border, Politicians have no credibility. I don't give a damn whether you're Republican or almost Jesus Christ himself. You have no credibility. But yet you want to get in my pockets? I don't know what, somehow our country has gotten so screwed up. And I don't know how that happened. I'm 70 years old. I lived through the Vietnam times. I grew up in the 50s and the 60s, and that was a good time to grow up. Baltimore was a good place to live, but it's not anymore. It's not anymore. So what are we all to do? What are we all to do? Take up arms ourselves? Maybe it'll come to that. I just hope that our soldiers won't rebel against us, like they do in other these banana republics that our country is becoming. That's all I got to say. So you all going to tax me on something I get nothing of? That's not fair. It's not fair. If you want to tax me, then dig us some storm drains or something, or retention ponds or something. We get nothing, which is all right. When I moved out there, I knew we got nothing. That's what I liked, was the fact that we got nothing. It was just us. We take care of ourselves. And that's the American way. You take care of yourselves and your neighbors and your loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Hi, my name's Paul Lavasser. I live on Croft, and I've been here a little over a year. I have a couple of questions. Do we currently have, because I'm still new to the area, a water treatment facility in here? We do. Okay, good. My next question would be, I think that there could have been a little more attention to detail to the properties that are being assessed, to look at whether we're actually funneling bad water to the ecosystem. Where I live, I don't have a road edge. There's no access to drainage or anything, so everything off my roof and my driveway goes straight into the ground. That's property that should be exempt for all people who are not contributing to the lakes or the estuaries or even the Gulf or the Atlantic. And that should have been considered. I don't know if it was or not, but I'm going to look into the federal guidelines further and the state guidelines and see where we should be. And then I'm going to run for office.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name is Rochelle Fagan. I'm a property owner here in Citrus County, and I'm going to keep it short because the people ahead of me have made a lot of good points that I agree with. I don't have runoff off my property either. I'm on a septic. We have a well. We don't contribute to that. I just strongly feel that you need to find the money elsewhere.
Okay.
And that's about it. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Angel Manuel Davila, and I live behind the Inverness Country Club. And I've lived here since 1988. And we purchased 7 acres back there. And the 7 acres are pretty high, and my property sits right in the middle of it. Okay. So the runoff water is absorbed by all the land that I have. I have 7 acres. I mean, I should get paid because according to my real estate taxes, I pay because I have more land. So if I have more land, then I should be paid for that water that's being absorbed, okay, because I'm paying these high taxes, okay? So first off, I'd like to correct the young lady back there who made the report, because she said they sent out first-class letters, okay? In the letter, it says that you have 20 days to respond if you disagree with the assessment. This is standard mail. The post office will hold this to last. So there's no way of saying that you got it within 5 days or 4 days or whatever. So those 20 days should be written off. Okay, if you disagree, you disagree. There should be no time limit. Okay? I do not use pesticides. I do not use insecticides or fertilizers to pollute the ground. I have thousands of trees and grafts to absorb any aerial pollution dropped by rainwater. In addition, I have 55-gallon drums in my drains. I am not supported by the city or county in any way. We are a homeowners association that maintain our own roads. We have no ponds, no cisterns, no sewers, no sidewalks. So, to say that I have to pay for this runoff is ridiculous, okay? The city, county does not do anything for us. The last time I saw the mosquito person was about 25 years ago. And I told them to stay away because they were killing the bees, okay? I do not own cows, horses, or farm animals that can pollute the grounds. When you own a large tract of land, and I mentioned this, you pay higher taxes, so you should get a credit for having all that land, all that water being absorbed by your property, okay? Most of the monies collected will be used to start up anyway another bureaucracy with directors, secretaries, field workers, vehicles, offices, etc. It's just never ending, okay? I would like to say, well.
Go ahead, you finish up real quick.
Yeah. I would like to say that you reconsider, okay, for the people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
My name is Anthony Mozo, and I live in Citrus Hills, the old part of Citrus Hills. And I just want to say a few things. One is I came from Brevard County, and I was born and raised in Florida. In Brevard County, we have the Indian River Lagoon. We did a lot of stormwater work over there. It still crashed. You have a lot of problems down south of here. And I really hope people recognize that we do have problems and they need to be addressed, and it's going to cost money to address them. But down south of here, we have red tide. We have a lot of stormwater issues down here. Here, we're not perfect in our springs and in our waters. I'm sorry, I need to address you.
You're fine, you're fine.
But I think that we're better off, I know we're better off than Brevard County. And I'm pretty sure we're better off in South Florida, too. So I think you have to do something. Hello, Mr. Oliver. Mr. Oliver and Commissioner Kitchen have been very helpful to me over the years, too, so thank you. I don't always agree with you. But,
Neither does my wife.
I neither. So I think we have to understand that we do have potential problems, and we do have issues with pollution over in the springs, over in the Homosassa and in Crystal River and in the Chaz. We do have issues in Hernando and some of our other lakes, and they have to be addressed. Now, I'm not sure I agree with your ranges that you have here, because I think that they are going to impact some people who are at our lowest economic level. You have, the one is 1,201 to 3,100 feet. That seems a pretty big range to me. And I would encourage you to at least look at that and consider our elderly population, our people who are sick, our veterans, and try and make this as fair as you possibly can. But I do think we need some money, and $4 million, quite frankly, is not a lot.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Burt? Sir? Your green card? Next speaker, come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. Commissioners and ladies and gentlemen, my name's Donald Moore. I've graduated from high school over in Leesburg. The first time I come to Florida was 1945. We had cows running everywhere. We had open range. We didn't have any problems then, but the more people we get down here, the more problems we have. But with the influx of the people, what happened to all the impact fees from 20 years ago to now? What have you done with that? I live off of Cardinal Lane off of Greengate. I live out in a subdivision that is privately owned, and no water runoff goes to any of your storm sewers because there ain't no storm sewers on Cardinal Lane or Greengate, South Greengate. You know where that, you're my senator. We've been trying to get a county to fix our roads. We've been fixing our roads for over 40 years back in there. And we can't get no help because everybody has to, agree to it. And then they wanted 25 foot on each side. That's 50 feet. This was back in the 90s when we applied. Well, now I guess you don't need that much because we're not having a big semi driving through there and stuff except our garbage collection. But our runoff water goes into our ground. I got the best water that you'll ever want to have, and I don't have no filters on it and no nothing. So that rainwater coming down is not going in your storm sewers. I don't have any storm sewers until you get to 19, and I'm 2.5 miles from 19. So why tax us? I'm a veteran. I'm 82 years old, and I only live on Social Security, which is $1,200. Now you're taxing me $58, and I only live in a single-wide mobile home that don't have less than 1,000 feet in it, in the mobile home itself. So I'm having to pay $58. Sometimes I don't have that much money. And then you're going to assess my house and take it away from me. I went through this once with a reverse mortgage, and I ain't going through it again. It took me 5 years to get it back. And now you want to take it away and assess me again for garbage. Yeah, I pay $25 for solid. I pay for fire protection, which the closest hydrant now is down on Cardinal Lane and stuff. I think it's a bad idea. You didn't give us enough time, and I think you ought to put it on our taxes.
Thank you.
Because I think your mind's already made up.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Randy Silva. I'm the community manager at Stonebrook and Forest View in Homosassa. And as a couple of my residents already came up here, Mr. Ruska and Mr. Gerke, at these communities, which total about 500 homes, we run off into our ponds, and I just think it's really unfair. I mean, I think it's unfair for every resident here, not just in those two communities, but I think we're paying enough. I think you guys would maybe agree with me, I'm not sure. But I just would like, I'd like to see some sort of mitigation, at least for these two communities, which are 55 plus, and I mean, they're living on fixed incomes. They're barely surviving, some of them, and I see it with my own eyes every day. So I just wish you guys would really reconsider this, because we're strongly opposed to it, and that's all I have to say. So.
And remember, you can appeal, and if you're handling your stormwater,
Yeah.
there's a possibility of you not having to pay it.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Yep.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. Name's Alan Otis, and I live here in Inverness on Gospel Island Road. I moved here 7 years ago from probably one of the bluest areas of this country. And I'm a developer. I've been building houses for 16 years. And in New England, when things got to the point where, we'd go to council meetings like this, and we'd have lines of people down the halls telling their stories, but we always had the feeling like the members already had their minds made up. It was just a technicality listening to the citizens. So I hope that's not the case, because when I chose Citrus County, I liked the fact that it was conservative. And when I voted for you, I looked at you as a conservative, somebody who wants to hold the line on taxes. Now, I don't know the full issue of the stormwater runoff problem and the pollution, but in New England, when we had problems with the water pollution, it was usually bad septic systems around the waterways. So I don't know if a lot of these folks have that situation, but I know in Citrus Springs we're building houses, Pine Ridge and all these other places, there's retention ponds that are handling the runoff just fine. In a couple of days, the water's gone, and the sand is a filter, the same filter used to filter out the sewage that goes down to the treatment plants. It's basically sand filtered. So I don't know what the problem is there as far as that, but when it comes to money, we've spent thousands of dollars building these new homes under an acre with the upgraded septic systems. So we're supposedly making an impact there. And the other thing is, I'm looking at it as the revenue. You guys call yourselves conservatives. We're looking for places that, you know, the taxes are not being accounted for. You've got acres and acres of land being developed. We're building houses as fast as we can. We can't even get the supplies to build these houses. These areas of land, we're paying taxes a couple of $100 a year. Now there's houses on them. You're getting $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 a year in tax revenue. You got a 35% increase in all these folks' home values. I haven't seen the taxes go down. I see them go up. I've been here 7 years. All the properties that I've owned, every single year, those taxes are going up. You guys should have multitudes of money to address this problem and not lay it down the folks and charge them more taxes. I don't believe you should be raising the taxes. I believe you should be lowering the taxes. I believe the revenue that's coming into the county is far exceeding what you expect. And that money should be used for improving the roads, the sidewalks, and other things that are more important than a little bit of rain runoff. That's my opinion. I'm against this, and I think politically it would probably be wise to reject this, because it seems to me that most of these folks don't want you voting for this.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name's Tom Venable. I retired to Citrus County in 2004. I graduated from Lehigh University with a degree in geology. I've been a member of the Geological Society and the American Meteorological Society. I have a copy of my formal statement for the record. The proposed sewer system does not accurately represent the current situation pertaining to sewers and water pollution in Citrus County. The generalized statements from state and federal agencies about water pollution from storm sewage do not apply here, except in incorporated Inverness and Citrus Crystal River. The pretense for the tax is mislabeled. It is not a prevention tax for almost all of Citrus County. No water from sewers enters waterways. There are no rivers or streams in the county's interior to conduct the water to waterways. County areas that do not discharge waters to the rivers or the Gulf include the area inside the county's southern border, U.S. east of Route 19, south of Denellen Road, south of Withlacoochee Trail, west of Route 200, and west of Route 41. Our highly sanded soils and topography do not allow to happen. That is almost all the unincorporated county area. Almost all the developments I have looked at have storm self-containment systems using natural depression features or man-made retaining bowls. Easily verified in the county records office using development plans. The development plans include retaining systems were accepted by the county before the developments were constructed. There are no county storm sewers present. The continuity of how this is done, required and approved, points to an early understanding of a need for an alternative to a county-wide storm system. This is accomplished by developments, storm sewers, storm systems, not discharging off their developments or into open-ended waterways. It also indicates a major development would qualify for exemption. That leaves few properties to pay the amount mentioned in the notice. Sugar Mill Woods Village, Sugar Mill Woods, Citrus Hills, Pine Ridge, Citrus Springs, Beverly Hills, Hills of Avalon, Crystal Oaks, Meadowcrest, Inverness Highlands West, Inverness Highlands North, and many more developments have similar rain runoff retainment systems. Some are more obvious because the grounds are open. Less obvious forested areas are also used for their natural depression collection areas. Not usually good building sites. No county water system, no county sewer system present.
Thank you.
Let me
Sir, your 3 minutes is up.
All right.
You can wrap it up real quick. I'll let you wrap it up real quick if you.
All right, I'll wrap it up in a quick statement. Our properties recharge the aquifer. The expert study completely ignored the water situation in Citrus County and pollution issues.
Okay, wrap it up. Thank you. Next speaker, please. Welcome.
My name is Linda Willits, and I oppose this tax. I live on limited income. I'm on disability. I make $700 a month. And my driveway, my house is 225 feet up. I have a concrete pad where I put my car on. There's no storm water. I built the driveway up with mulch and leaves and you name it, it's built up. There's no water. The no-name store, I have a ditch in front of the property, one here and one culvert here, one here. No water. Never's been no water in the road or nothing. Now, my neighbor on this side, they had put an apron in both their driveways, and they dug all that apron up. So now all their sand from their driveway is filling my culverts up. No water, but their sand. And it going past my two culverts into the next lady's yard. And the other lady on side of me, they were from Rock Crusher Road. When they opened the residential area for Citrus Park on Coleman, they bought that piece of property to put a driveway in. Well, they have cows and donkeys and stuff because they got 5 acres, but they're originally from the other road. So, I mean, the county's only cleaned the culverts once since 1993. And so I don't think that I should be paying this .50 or whatever ESUs because I don't have no water at all near my property. So I hope y'all change your mind.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, you need to give her your green card. Thank you.
I got all notes on.
Next speaker. Welcome.
Hi, my name's John Bonard. I live in Pine Ridge. And in my opinion, this is really a national and a state problem. It is not a county problem. It's an environmental problem. My question to you people is, whatever happened to all the money from the BP spillage? This should be used in this particular case. My taxes went up from $9.55 to $100.03. That's a tenfold increase. I don't know about you. I don't mind an increase, but tenfold is way out of sight, okay? We keep on talking about people doing their jobs. I've been here over 25 years, and there's one thing that's really been in my craw for a long time. And it's a little bit out of context, but one thing that bothers me is that commissioners should only be able to run 1 or 2 times. Okay, it should be limited. The other thing that bothers me is that commissioners are considered part-time. And I've talked to a couple of commissioners that were running over the years, and they came down my throat and said, well, we work 100 hours, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, if you work 100 hours, make yourself full-time, okay? If you don't like it, quit. As a part-timer, I don't understand why you guys have fringe benefits. I don't know if the people that work for the county that are part-timers get fringe benefits. But I know there's an awful lot of people on the commission that really don't need these fringe benefits, okay? They've got their own businesses, they've set up their own pensions, what have you. I have a lot of neighbors that are widows, and they just cannot afford this kind of increase. I think that if we had limited terms, we might have a little bit better government. That's about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Janet Barrick for Citrus Springs Civic Association. We had our meeting on Tuesday night, and the board wanted me to come talk to you. Citrus Springs is a planned unit development, and we have lots and lots of DRAs. We're also building, and I checked the numbers, and as of yesterday, we had 353 approved and almost completely built homes since January 1st in Citrus Springs. That will be an increase in property taxes for the county to have tax money coming in. Maybe you don't get it today, but you will get it within the next year or so. The board said that you're going to improve the quality of the water within Citrus County by doing this. Well, last July, you made the builders improve the quality of the water by putting in the new septic systems,
The state did
which
that.
raised the prices of the houses by $15,000. Okay? In 42 years of visiting this county, the same places still flood. Why? Okay? And I've been coming here 42 years, not just living here, but, okay, so I can tell you the history where there's water everywhere when it's rainy season. Okay, the board went around and we talked about how much we were paying on our property taxes and how much it was going up. Most of us are going up from $3.80 to $58.84. That's 1,500% for that one line item. Yes, you are going to take the $3.80 off my ad valorem, but you're going to put it on my non-ad valorem at $58.84, from $3.80 to $58.84. The question they want to know is, are you going to take this MSBU like you did with Citrus Springs and increase it whenever you want on a yearly basis to whatever you want? MSBUs are supposed to be voted in. Citrus Springs voted theirs in. Beverly Hills voted theirs in. I don't think the citizens of Citrus County voted in an MSBU for this. We do have, our MSBU in Citrus Springs does count for putting in grates, okay? And we do put in these grates with this nice thing over the top of them for the wastewater. Also, all the houses that were built since 2008 have to be at least 12 inches above the center of the road with a swale on the properties, like the gentleman was talking about. So I don't understand. You're going to tax people in Citrus Springs for something that they're not going to get any benefit from, and you're going to say this is a fair and equitable tax. And that's why the Citrus Springs Board of the Citrus Springs Civic Association wanted me to talk to you. It is not fair or equitable to the residents of our planned unit development, which was planned and approved by the county and the state in the 60s. And we try to maintain everything that we were asked to do in that planned unit development. Also, the other question they asked was, what are you going to do about unity deeds? You got all these people getting a unity deed and they're putting a 40 by 30 building on the property. Okay, how is that going to affect? They now took the one property, they connected it with the other. They've got the house here, so they're getting one CEU, or ESU rather. What about that 1,200 square foot building they just put up? Is that going to put them into a second, give them a 2 instead of a 1? How many of those do you know about? And there's a lot of them out there that people built and didn't get permits. So the thing is, how is that going to, how are you going to shake that out of the tree? Are you going to send somebody out going up and down and finding all these places? Because there are lots and lots and lots of them. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Ann Brooks, and I actually live in the Mini Farms property. And I went through, took the trouble to read all the storm
Can you come up to the mic a little bit closer?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
I read all the stormwater information I could find on the county codes online. And one of the things that struck me is, like in Article 3, service assessments, it says special benefit to a property can be, that's where you can be assessed. And so as I was reading further and further, I realized that it says benefited property a lot. In section 99-1, the definition says benefited property means all parcels of real property located within a stormwater management area that receive a benefit from the stormwater management service. We don't have any storm drains. As a matter of fact, all the water that's built up on Citrus Avenue right now is draining into private property. No properties in our area are benefited by stormwater management. And I'm hearing that from most of the people. So my question is, are you legally able to apply this towards us? I'm not asking for an answer, I'm asking for y'all to look at it. Because in your definitions, it says, if we don't benefit, we don't pay. It's basically what it says. And on to the ESUs. ESUs. I object to being lumped into small, medium, large, and then anybody that can afford a $6,000 or 6,000 square foot house gets assessed individually. All that data is at the property appraiser's office. If somebody's got a 100-foot shed, 10 by 10 shed that's 100 feet, should not pay the same amount of money as somebody's got 1,200. And in your definitions, it doesn't say under roof, it says impervious surface. So y'all are going by, from what I'm hearing, it's being based on what we've got under roof. But if you've got somebody that's got a 1,000-foot driveway, that needs to be taken into consideration, not the square footage of the residential home. Impervious surface is impervious surface. So you're already not assessing on impervious surface. That's already not happening. You're also assessing non-benefited properties. There's nothing in here, so I'm just saying, I'm not representing my association, even though I serve on their board. I'm just representing and bringing information to y'all that I found in your code. So before you vote and before you make this final, make sure you can legally do it,
Okay, thank you.
because according to your codes, I don't think you can. Have a nice day.
Yes, ma'am.
My
Welcome.
name's Steve Barker, and me and my wife are property owners on Gospel Island. Now, being a Floridian, we're all familiar with hurricanes. Now, during that hurricane, somebody takes a case of water that you buy for $5 and they try to sell you for $60, you go after them for price gouging. Now, I paid $2.78 last year for what we're talking about. Now you want to take $58 from me. That's an $1,800 increase, 1,800% increase. Is that not price gouging? Now, I'm a retired firefighter and ex-Navy diver. Takes a lot to scare me. But I tell you, there's two sentences that scare me more than anything. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Three things happen when you tell me that. When the government gets involved, efficiency goes down, the price triples, and the bureaucracy is unreal. This is unacceptable, totally unacceptable. Thank you.
Welcome.
My name is Melissa Ray, and I live in the North Highlands. The properties in the North Highlands are extremely sandy. Any runoff from my house and my driveway it rained 3 times last night, it rained 3 times this morning. There is no standing water in my yard. It goes right to the aquifer. Not to mention all the acreage in the North Highlands and the South Highlands, where I used to live, that is undeveloped altogether. It's just wooded properties. And you have said that this is a more fair tax because it includes every county resident instead of the people who have stormwater drains in the cities and have county water and sewer. Most of the county residents have neither. So users in the cities that actually have these services will benefit from the rest of us having to pay for something we don't have and don't have any idea if we ever will get it. The problem with Florida and water is just bad government. In 2008, Governor Christ made a deal with Big Sugar to buy them out and 180,000 acres of their land. In 2014, the voters of this state decided that 1/3 of the document stamp, which you all paid if you own property, would be set aside for the government to buy that land. It never happened. The Charlie Crist deal died in 2020. The tax is being collected, but not for the purpose we voted for. That's one of the reasons that we're asking, how can we be assured that this tax you're asking for is going to be used for the reasons that you say? Why can't this, and where is the dock stamp money, by the way? How much of it has been collected, and why can't it be used for this problem? In closing, what you're asking for is yet another tax on the citizens of this county for issues that most of us don't have a hand in creating, that none of us can solve, and many of us blame on our incompetent and uncaring and possibly corrupt government.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There ain't no green cards out there. All right, I'll fill it out in a
Welcome.
minute. There was no green card, so I
That's
didn't
fine.
have one.
Yep, I
Okay?
heard, yep.
Real quick, you've heard it all before. I'm from a community, part of Citrus Hills. We've got 481 houses. We've got no sewers. All the rainwater, all the storm water goes into our aquifer. Why are we paying you for this, is my question. If we get no satisfaction, or we get nothing from the county, we don't get the DRAs, which are all ours. As a matter of fact, the private portion of our community has to pay SWIFT Mud every 5 years for an inspection. And now, now you're expecting us to come up with another $58. I just got to tell you, last year, we had the board that said, you know what, we're going to raise you're going to raise your fees $50 a year. And it's only $50. Well, he's no longer in the community. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, for public record, can I have him state his name?
He's filling mine out there. What
David
name? I need your name,
Tacuberri.
sir. Sir. Can you state your name for me?
John Griffin.
Thank you, John.
Danuta Kuberik, Lecanto. Just I got this letter about storm water, and I'm thinking, my God, everything is about environment. Maybe it is good, but I'm thinking, where this territory where the storm water environment most influence? Of course, Crystal River, Inverness, because it is close to water. So many buildings, beautiful villas, they are laying on, standing near water. So many boats on this water, they are polluting. And we go away because we want to not pay so big taxes, so we go inland. And suddenly, what appear? Inverness, Crystal River would not pay. They are polluting because they are standing on this water, and we, far away from them, we are punished because we don't want to live over there because we are poor and we cannot afford to live over there. So you punish these people who are not living near lake, near water. Not only punish, you want to get rid of these people from houses where they were working whole life to get one house, simple house, with 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom, very often, and they can live on when they retire, so they can just live their own life. And what happened? You tax to death. did anybody who had this project about the storm water realistically think what is happening in this world? I think nobody think what is happening to regular people, especially retired people on this world. What happened? Epidemic. How we are struck by this. Then taxes. We raise taxes for houses because value of houses going up. So we straight away jump in. We tax them to death.
You need to
On
wrap
top
it up.
of the, do you know what the inflation it is?
You need to wrap it up.
Do you know how we suffer? Do you know how we count every penny? Do you know that we have to sacrifice butter and buy margarine? Do you know
Ma'am,
that
your 3 minutes is up, so you need to wrap it up for
do
me.
you know that I cannot watch TV because you race. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. How are you?
Good, thank you. My name's Steve Bordeaux. I live on West River Bend Road, and in the beginning, I listened to you all talk about the runoff into the rivers, into the lakes, and you didn't want them contaminated. I live right on the river. I do not have to have flood insurance, but at this moment, I need flood insurance. I have a piece of property across the street from my house. It's probably about 6 acres. Now, years ago, this piece of property, this neighborhood back there, they took a pipe and they ran out of that neighborhood and they ran across Citrus Avenue over to the Withlacoochee River to drain that property because it flooded so bad. The other day, I took a ride over there to take a look around. I went in one way and I went in another way. I noticed that there was a lot of new housing over there. And the old housing property, they were all flooded. But the new housing was built up. Now, I've been in landscaping, was in landscaping for 35 years. Now, I know that when you take dirt and you pile it someplace, water will go around that. I have a funnel of water coming onto my property. My driveway that I spent over $5,000 for, which I don't have the money to do because I live on Social Security, is gone pretty much. I'm gonna have to have half of it repaired because it's been washed away. I got videos on my phone to where I've got rapids coming into my yard. It's just like a funnel. You look across the street and there's nothing but water. You look down the street, nobody's got a problem. You look down this way, there's a small problem. You drive up and down the street, there's no problems. I got a problem. And that problem is I got a funnel of water running into my driveway. I got up this morning after the rain and I had a foot of water underneath my house. My pump that I just spent $800 for is underwater. I used your bathroom here. I'm glad to see it worked because my damn sure don't work. And it hasn't for a while. I've called the establishment here on many occasions. I either do not get a number, it's not working, or we're away from our desk. And I never hear from them. I've done it many a times because of this problem. It's a serious problem. If you're worried about water runoff and contaminating the lakes and the rivers, I got a problem because it's running off into the river.
Okay, you need to wrap it up for me.
Plus, you go out there and you spray chemicals in the river to kill vegetation. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
I got a serious problem.
Lynn, welcome.
Hi, I'm Lynn Turk, and I've lived in Citrus County quite a while, and I've been up here before. And so I'm going to keep this short because I did send you all an email concerning my concerns, which I'm opposite this previous speaker. I have 10 acres of pine trees that are just loving all of the runoff from all of my neighbors and including myself. So it really puzzles me that I would get a letter that says $456.01 is what I will be assessed on my property, and then an additional $100.03 for the agricultural exempted property. That doesn't sound quite right. Ms. Davis was nice enough to respond to me this morning, and I appreciate that. And I will file for exemption, obviously, if you pass this. But based on this room's popularity and the other one, I would hope that you would reconsider this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. My name's Ellen Fondren, and I sat on a board once that had a problem, and they thought about hiring people to come in and help us with it. And instead, we decided that our neighbors, our friends, community people who had knowledge, who had good educations, could help us with it. We went together, we found out that they could help us. My question is this: why and how did you come up with the money for these people to come in and present this presentation when we have people who are educated, people who know how to do these things and how can come together, and they're a committee? I don't know if today you can get people to do that. I don't know. But we were fortunate. We did. We saved a lot of money. We had a lot of happy people in our community, and that's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Where did the money come from?
Welcome.
Hey, good afternoon, commissioners, honorable commissioners, excuse me. I'd like to apply for your job because I like to have a butt chewing all the time. You should have, if it's not been distributed, something I haven't heard come up in discussion today. And one thing is, I saw in the letter that this was about about clean water. Frankly, I think it's about taxes. But the EPA, which I haven't even heard mentioned today, even in the presentation, about following what they think we ought to do. And that little summary that I gave to y'all actually kind of spells out some of that. And it says protecting water quality from urban runoff. Clean water is everybody's business. So this story about exemptions, I want freebies, I don't want my land protected, et cetera. It sounds just like many other things that we want welfare. We want something. We don't want to do this. We don't want to pay for it. Well, frankly, I'm opposed to the tax. I think mostly because it's such a huge increase. And I think there's other means that if we really want clean water that we can implement, and the EPA spells out a lot of those. Our techniques that we use now are not modern. They're not efficient to abate the stormwater issues. And stormwater is going to affect everybody. There's no virgin land in Citrus County. At one time, it has all been timbered, cut, plowed, something. So there's no virgin land here that would have, what would I say, should be exempt. I say that for the cities as well. They're as much as this picture is being in the county. Agriculture land, whatever the case might be. Excuse me, I shouldn't be saying yeah, not about clean water. I don't believe that the county's bought into this either. I think as far as the leadership, not necessarily just yourselves, but even just the leadership with the administration. And I say that because just like the beautification in Beverly Hills, they put some twigs in the ground and say that it's beautiful. And frankly, I don't think that's a good use of our dollars. And I'd rather see dollars expended for a better solution. Some of the solution I might like to see is maintaining the gas tax, because living here as a Floridian for years, gas taxes were put off on a tourist as well as ourselves. So it helped bring in those dollars. And if I'm not mistaken, that's where it comes from right now, but you want to change that over to paving roads. If you want to keep the property tax the same, it's a pretty low amount. But I'd say follow some of the recommendations that the EPA has. Get a community buy-in. That's one of the biggest things. Get the community involved. If we really want clean water, which, again, I don't think this is what this is really about. It's about getting more money for the situation. Use and leverage the government power to purchase products for homes. Don't have them engineered, like rain barrels or storm basins, pond building, plants, etc. So I'd like to thank you very much. Just think of it in a different scope, no tax. But if we really are clean water, please, new ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair, for the record, can I please get his name?
I need your name too, sorry.
I'm sorry. It's George Prescott, and I live in Oakwood Village.
Got you,
Thank you
George.
very
Thank
much.
you, George.
I already got a card.
Sir.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Next speaker, please. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Chris Venable. I've got to start with a question. With this money that's being raised, are you talking about putting in storm sewers throughout the entire county?
It won't be through the entire county, but there will be new systems put in.
All right. Along that line, I think what you're actually proposing is a highway tax, because that is going to be the location of where these sewers are going. It's probably not fair to assess on a millage basis, especially for farmers. But I think what you need to do is have a flat tax. It could be set up to be based on the number of vehicles you own. Now, just hold on, folks.
Please give her time, please.
Or keep the gas tax. If the gas tax is gone, we still need to have some sort of equitable tax. What has been proposed is not equitable to the citizens of Citrus County. You've got to come up with a different system. It shouldn't be based on runoff. It needs to come from a different source. It needs to be worked through differently. What you've got proposed, most of the communities are going to try to avert by getting some sort of dispensation. Those people, a lot of them can't afford it. So you won't be getting the money from the people that can't afford it. If it's set up equitably by household or by vehicles, you're going to get a better representation of the people here. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. My name is Frank Papson.
Frank?
I represent Arrowhead.
Got it, we got you.
And I had made a nice presentation. I took some nice pictures. I had the neighborhood provide pictures for me, and I filled out a thing, and I gave it to you. And I'm sitting here listening to all these people coming up here and talking, and my whole presentation went out the window. And I'll tell you why it went out the window. Because I kept asking myself different questions. And one of the questions was, where's that 26 point something or other million that's supposed to be for storm drains? Where did that money go? That's question number one. Question number two, I'm hearing about all these different cities with large populations being exempt because of whatever reason, and it brought me to another question in my mind. Where is this money for this storm water that we're paying for? Where's that going to be used? It's not going to be used in Arrowhead because you told us that we had to have 100% of the population has to agree to some deal to do a contract so that you do our roads, when everybody and their brother knows you can't get 400 people to be 100% agreeable with it. We got a Charlie Strange that told us point blank, no, I don't want you improving the roads. He even chased our road crew off of one of the roads that he uses because he did not want it improved. So we're a situation where we're having drainage problems. We live right next to the river, and our whole community is partly wetlands, swamp, and dry spots where people are building houses. Well, one of the problems that I'm faced with is we got people moving trailers into these different lots that they're buying, and they're selling. God knows why they're selling, but they're selling. But what's happening is they're bringing in truckloads of fill, and they're piling it up on there, then they're building their house on top of that, and then they move in. Well, what happens is when they pile all this fill in there, it changes the way water drains. And for what I don't understand is, why isn't there an inspector out there inspecting what's going on with the environment? Because right now, it seems like nobody's out there doing the thing, and it's destroying what we had out there. It's turning our roads are turning into ditches, are turning into ponds. But what is this stormwater money going to? Because I haven't seen anything saying, well, it's going here. It's not going into Arrowhead, and it never will. It's not going into so many other places that I heard of, and it probably never will. And because all these people have their own retention ponds and this and that and everything else, and you're going to turn around and raise the taxes on everybody to pay for, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm hearing that you're going to put storm drains in, but I don't know where. If you put them into cities, well, tax the cities. But you're also, I heard somebody turn around and say, Arrowhead will be exempt. And then I was watching the conference on television of the week prior to, and I heard one of you people get up there and say, Arrowhead will certainly be paying. They're not going to be exempt. And I said to myself, well, I got one guy saying that we're going to be exempt, and I got another guy saying, no, we ain't. So which one do I believe? I don't know which one I'm going to believe, but it doesn't matter. What matters is the fact that Arrowhead needs help. A lot of communities need help. A lot of places are being flooded out. I don't know how bad because I don't go out there. I know how bad Arrowhead is, and I know how hard it is to get in and out of there. Today, when I left Arrowhead, I ran into water you wouldn't believe. Anyways, I'm running out of time, and I don't want to bore you anymore. And I really wish you'd turn around and do two things. One, reconsider this tax on water runoff, because you're not benefiting all the people, and that's what you're supposed to be. And two, figure out a way that somehow we can find the money that we need in the different communities like Arrowhead so that they can get the help that they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
I'm Rodney Miner. I own 6 acres out near the old Boy Scout camp on Boy Scout Road. I got my notice in the mail. I sent a letter in to the commission in a timely manner within the 20 days. I hope they have it on file somewhere. My property is a 6-acre parcel. Almost half the property is wetlands. As required for the recent notification, I submitted my written notice of petition within the 20-day limit. Along with the stated objection, I included documents supporting the case for mitigation credits. Among these documents is a certified survey showing jurisdictional wetlands, which was acknowledged by SwiftMud. Immediately behind my property and adjacent to my rear fence is a large cypress swamp. Also on my 6 acres is a man-made pond that I put in of approximately 1/4 of an acre. Around the pond I have planted cypress and other native wetland species. The upland area is generally flat. The elevation is 42.4 feet above sea level. based on the National Geodetic vertical datum, and retains most rainwater from storms. Percolation of water into the water table occurs uninterrupted. Some water flows into my cypress pond. My residence is a 54-foot by 52-foot single-story house on a concrete slab. There is a 2-car garage 20 feet from the house. My driveway connects to Boy Scout Road, which is a paved road. My driveway is unpaved, no asphalt, no concrete, natural ground. In other words, it's a non-impervious surface. The elevation of Boy Scout Road is 45.3 mean sea level. As I mentioned above, the average ground level near my house is 42.4. The finished floor is 45.2. In other words, I can have water flow all around my house, but my house is dry, my finished floor is dry, but it's a swamp in the back, a swamp on the side, and my pond is right now overflowing due to runoff from Boy Scout Road, which is also the eastern boundary of the Swiftmud property, formerly known as the McGregor Smith Scout Reservation. And there's a county culvert that goes under the road, and guess what it's doing? It's flooding my property from all the McGregor Smith property. The runoff is like rapids. Thank you.
You can finish up. I'll give you a few more seconds
That's
there.
all right.
All right, thank you.
Most people have already said what I needed to say, but I
Okay.
needed to put in my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Is there any other speakers? Okay. Okay. Can't see him back there. Welcome.
Welcome. Bruce Jasper. I live back on Shawnee Trail right along the river.
I need your name.
Bruce
Okay, I got
Jasper.
it. Thank you, thank you.
And my question is this tax you're trying to bend us over and pay for, since we don't live in the city, is that going to offset future development, since the cities are already developed and know where to go, but out in rural areas? Like especially people that donated to your election campaigns? I'm serious.
Well, answer your question when we're,
Well, I am. Is it going to offset this tax revenue, going to help future development out in rural areas?
I don't think it will, but I mean, no. Welcome, Mr. Hollins.
Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners, my name is Dixie Hollins with the Hollinswood Ranch in Citrus County, Florida. I want to thank the commissioners and staff. We've owned property here since 1942, basically from the Withlacoochee River to the Crystal River. And over the years, there's been some land changes out there, myself included. Duke Energy. Back in the 50s, my father submitted to DOT, had the same problem that we're facing here now, is flooding. We take all the water east of US 19 that goes through those ranch properties. There's approximately 10 to 12 DOT ditches between those two boundaries that hadn't been cleaned out in 45, 50 years. And there's lots of development on Duke Energy and Wholesome and Citrus Mining and Timber, likewise. I've met with Wholesome folks. They have discussed with the county and DOT and with Duke Energy on opening up some of these ditches and opening up some of the high level on the units 4 and 5, the gas plants, new access roads, etc. That alone will help the flooding in Crystal Manor and all the way south to the Crystal River Mall. I can assure you I have been down this road many, many times. I want to thank you all for taking the time to look at somehow or some methodology to keep our bays and rivers clean. One of the things, if we get the surface water from standing there and standing there and standing there and adding more risk of pollutant, that's one way to get some more clean water to our rivers. Instead of when that water stands there a long time, it's just a matter of time before it's going to be stagnant, it's going to get sour, and cars drive through it, et cetera, et cetera. I have these maps for y'all. I'll be more than happy to work with the staff. I know Holsom will also. I know we're in contact with DOT. I have these maps here, just a little simple map. I'll be more than happy to work with your engineer department to help at least some of these people in Citrus County to get rid of some of this flood water. And hopefully we can get clean water to the state, to the rivers and streams, et cetera, in Citrus County. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. Anybody else?
Excuse me.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name's David Dane. I live in Floral City. We moved up here about 4 years ago. And I want to wait to the end because I know a lot of people have great questions, and I don't want to burden with duplication. So my question is, I got the trim notice. This tax is already on there. So if it's already on there, it sounds like your minds have already made up on this position and what direction you're going to go without any public input. So is this basically a dog and pony show? Mrs. Schubach, I applaud you. At least I hear your questions, and it sounds like you're going in the right direction, that you want answers to most of these people's questions as well. I think this is a rapid response to a problem that may not exist, or if it does, maybe another answer is in the works. I don't know. My property, and I know everybody's got concerns about their own property. I've got 1.5 acres. I live on the lake. Moses himself couldn't stop the water draining off my property and going in the lake. It's just that much pitch from my house or the property, and God created the land, not me. So it's an issue with everybody, I know, but you have to take our input. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Sure, I just want to make one quick comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Rose Farley, you're always going to have pollution, no matter what. It doesn't matter what the EPA does. It doesn't matter what the United States does. I lived in New York, unfortunately, but I'm here now, and I hope you don't have Cuomo back there because you sound just like his taxes. I swear it sounds like his taxes. But as far as pollution, when I hunted the Adirondack Mountains, there's no longer a lake in the Adirondack Mountains that isn't contaminated with acid rain. And it's not just from the United States, it's from the world, the rotation of the world, the rain coming from the other countries, like the Saudi sands that just went through Florida and polluted us with all their sands for 3 days of haze. We have pollution. We're always going to have pollution. And it's coming not just from the United States, but other countries. So the acid rain is here just as well. It's part of our pollution. And most of us here in Citrus County that live out in the rural areas, we don't benefit by any of this tax whatsoever. We don't have that kind of runoff. We don't have, I mean, the closest retention pond to my property is over 2 miles away. So, you know, I don't have sewer stuff. It's not going to benefit me whatsoever.
Thank you.
Could I just ask one more question,
No,
please?
sir, you already spoke for today.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions, or any other speakers? Any other speakers? Going once, going twice. We're going to go ahead and close the public portion of it. Commissioners, comments? Who wants to start?
I can if you want.
Okay, Holly, if you want to start, that's Commissioner Davis.
First of all, a whole bunch of people have left, so I'm going to address some folks that may or may not still be here. But I would say I would agree with the gentleman who said that things are screwed up for all of us individually. It's screwed up for us nationally at every level. I don't blame everyone per se for not trusting the government. There's been a lot of bad decisions and broken promises at every level of government. That being said, I want to offer the following comments from a very heartfelt perspective. There's some folks that have spoken today that have been a little bit personal attack on some of us. I personally am a citizen that didn't even run for 8th grade treasurer, never wanted to run for office. This is not, by a large margin, the best job I've ever had. It's the most challenging and fulfilling if I make a big difference in this community, okay? But as, who was it? The Honorable George Prescott said, you know, really fun to be up here to receive a butt chewing, because guess what? My taxes are going up if we vote this in today. All right, so I am always, my door is always open. I'm always happy to speak with any citizen. What I will say is that the county is run very, very lean. We have cut into the bone at this point. We are a very poor communicator with citizens. And so this should have been communicated better way up front, because there's a whole lot of misconceptions with folks in the audience, and I'll try to address a few of those. Number one, the stormwater mandates are federally mandated, and this happened before the current administration, so we can't blame it on President Biden. Statewide, we have a huge push for environmental restoration because red tide and losing all the eelgrass on the East Coast is killing manatees, et cetera. Y'all may not be aware, but the red tide has now arrived at our back door. It is sitting off our coast right now in this tropical storm. We are praying it does not blow it up into our coastal area. Let's see. Septic is approximated to be 70% of the problem. We do have septic and sewer conversions happening. I've gotten my butt chewed a few times about that as well. Stormwater is a big portion of the rest of it. And the point was made that if you're not living on the water, this doesn't benefit you. One of the communication issues is that if you drive on county roads to go to the grocery store or Walmart or to go get gas or to go to work or anything like that, you are benefiting from stormwater because those impervious surfaces bleed a lot of contaminants into our water system. That's what the stormwater management is for. There is mitigation if you have already invested in stormwater management in your own property, whether it be an HOA, a POA, or your own private property. You can get, I believe it's a 30 to 50% credit on the MSBU. There are hardship and veterans administrations. God bless you for your service if you're a veteran. And then, of course, there's ag exemptions and other nonprofit and whatnot exemptions. Anybody that's exempt on fire is doing this. Couple of personal comments. Mr. Papson, we've been back and forth several times this week. The issue in Arrowhead is that you have deed problems with the private roads. I was brainstorming a few things with staff this morning, so we'll get back to you on that. Thank you, Mr. Hollins, for being an excellent steward of the land and bringing that map to staff. And Ms. Sobel, you're absolutely right. It is a global pollution issue, but we got to take care of our own personal pollution issue as well. And I'm out.
Great job. Commissioner Kitchen.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis, I think, hit it right on the head there. Again, I'm glad she said that, gave me a chance to calm down, so I'm going to disregard some of the crazy stuff I heard today. I think the governor would be fascinated to find out he's going to take $10,000 to take a contract out on us. I think that would be interesting for him to find out about that. But anyway, let's go back to what this is really all about. And that is, I told people this was going to happen. I told my colleagues sitting up here that this was going to happen. And I told them that 2 years ago, and I told them 1 year ago, and I told them when we voted on this, because there was nobody in the audience. There was nobody here to speak to this. And I said, you wait till the notices go out, and then people will begin to speak to it. Matter of fact, the property appraiser won't even put this first year's MSBU on the trim notice because he doesn't want to get all the phone calls for it. Okay, so we knew this was going to be controversial. Nobody wants to pay more, whether it's a fee, a tax, or whatever. Nobody does. But we agreed, the five of us said, this is the thing that has to happen. It's right for the community. There's going to be some pushback, but we all five agreed to stand by it and see it happen. Okay, so, and I'm just telling you that.
Sir,
Mr. Chair?
Please keep it down in the audience. We've given you your time to speak.
Okay.
Thank you.
And again, had you been following this issue, and I know you guys have lives to live, you just can't sit around and listen to county commission stuff all the time, but we've had this discussion, and what I've just said is absolutely true. Okay? So again, it's up to the commissioners to decide if this is still the right thing to do and if they'll still move forward. And obviously, you're unhappy about it and you're angry about it, and that's understandable. But if you go back to the original statistics shown, less than 1% of the people that received this notice responded about it. Okay? The thing I find fascinating in my mind is the people that are going to pay the highest fee are the commercial entities, the ones with the big parking lots. I didn't see a single one of them stand up today and speak. I haven't received a single email from any of them. And, Mr. Chair, I believe
I'm only going to hear it one more time, and I'm going to escort you out, okay? We're giving you your time to speak. We understand, okay? Now you're going to give us our time, and please be respectful. Please.
So again, this comes back to we've somehow or another turned into a society, instead of listening to what each other have to say, we'll shout people down that say something that we don't like. And that's what I find very disturbing. Yes, we're angry because prices go up. But as Commissioner Davis pointed out quite accurately, there's things that we have to deal with that are called unfunded mandates. A lot of people are upset about what's happening with the price of things, but the majority of people in Florida voted for a minimum wage increase. So that has unfunded mandate trickle-down effects that's dealing with everything. We have people that come in every day and say, give more money to this, give more money to that. EMS wants more money. The roads need more money. This needs more money. And then the very next thing is, but we don't want to pay for it. Okay? Then we get into, and again, I'm not belittling the fact of the amount, but here's what, and I'm saying this, so hear me out. We're really talking for the average taxpayer here, something to the equivalent of about a tank of gas. Okay, so when I filled up my truck yesterday, I put $62 in my truck, and we're talking about $58. That may be humorous to some people, but all I'm saying here is that one of the things we looked at in many of the subjects that were discussed, and you can ask our consultant over there, I grilled her intensely about the issue of land ratio, about what benefit there was for a big lot with a small surface area ratio and impervious ratio as compared to a smaller one. And we went over all that, and we've had these discussions. So, you know, you say, well, we've made up our mind. All I'm saying is we've been talking about this for years, okay? Now here, get ready for this, because you haven't heard the best part yet. I've been telling people this for years, that this issue was coming. Here's something else I've been telling people for years. And my colleagues will appreciate this, because this was actually in the Sugar Mill Woods newspaper, because the reporter took this down. This could have the potential of being the single largest item on your tax bill. Okay? Because, and here's why, the federal government hasn't told us yet all the projects that we have to do to meet their requirements. So how can we possibly tell you how much it's going to cost to do it until they tell us this is what you have to do? So this is a beginning. This is a start. And, you know, and it's really quite, I can't believe how uncivil people have become, Mr. Chair. You know, to sit out in the audience that we're not here during the discussions, we're not here during the debates, and just not even listen to what's being said. So again, and that's the way we debate today. If you don't like what somebody's saying, you walk out and you leave. So here's the issue. Let's.
Yeah, we can get him out of there, please. Go ahead. He can, right, one sitting right there. No, we don't. It's not that, but we're going to keep an orderly meeting here today. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Kitchen.
Okay. All right. And again. Do you know how many times we're told if you don't vote for this, we'll vote you out of office, and if you do vote for it, we'll vote you out of office? And I think what the chairman was saying earlier about not being intimidated is you can't sit up here and make every decision that we have to make based on if somebody says, I'll vote you out of office if you do this. So we have to make the decisions that we think are best on the information we're given. So with that, there are real issues out there. I mean, I heard some very, very good explanations of and descriptions of problems, and I think what we're trying to get to is a way to solve those. I think what we're saying is those problems exist. There needs to be a way of funding to fix those, And this was the mechanism that we have looked into to do. None of the commissioners up here want to raise anything or add new things, but when it comes down to fixing and trying to solve these issues, it costs money to fix roads, it costs money to deal with stormwater, it costs money to supply fire, law enforcement, and EMS. And so really, that's where we're at. So either we move forward with it and fund these issues, or, whatever you want to call it, again, you say we might have made up our minds. I think most people have made up their minds to the other side of it. So I just think you need to pay attention to this. A lot of this is being driven by mandates coming down to us from the state and from the federal government. Just again, there's been a lot of discussion about sewer and sewer plants. Okay, this is not about that. There was a lot of discussion about Crystal River and Inverness. I'm sure we'll have more discussion about why they're not included. They have their own. We talk about FDOT, or what we have done with Highway 19. FDOT is a state project. So, to some degree, we oversee these things, but we're as unhappy about this as everybody else is. So we listened to it. The septic upgrades that one of the gentlemen, the contractor, spoke to, that's state law. That's state requirements. That's like when people come in and complain to us about shooting ranges in their backyard. We have to tell them we're preempted by the state. That's what the state tells us. So it's very frustrating to us as commissioners to get these mandates from up on high, and then we're told, but you need to figure out how your citizens are going to pay for it. So, and it's like everything else. If this doesn't get covered this way, it's got to be covered another way, which means money comes from something else. So that's where we are with it. I won't go into all the other issues here. There's a lot of points that were brought up, but I think the mitigation issues, a lot of you have brought up individual mitigation issues. I think those will be addressed if you follow the procedure. I met with the homeowners associations in Sugar Mill yesterday. My understanding is they're going to apply for those, to see how far that goes along. So I think those of you that live in those kind of communities. Also, Mr. Chair, I'll just go ahead and say I'm going to support this and moving forward, and I'd like to see the hardship added to it and the VA exemption added to it as well.
So thank you. Commissioner Kennard.
All right.
Are you gonna go last or now?
What's that?
You gonna go now or?
No,
Okay.
I'm ready, I'm
Okay.
fine. Without going through, and first of all, thank you to all the speakers. I took notes on everybody that I could hear their names. I have a little bit of an issue there sometimes hearing.
Oh.
But I did take notes, and thank you for everybody coming up to give their input. The two primary comments that I heard were our stormwater doesn't leave our property. It drains into the ground, or it goes into wetlands, or it goes into ponds or DRAs. The bottom line is that it does leave your property. It just doesn't run out into the road and leave your property. It goes to the ground. It ends up in the aquifer. The aquifer is where the water comes from to provide the flow out of all of our springs. And as we have heard many times before, the nutrients, the pollutants that are coming out of those spring vents is coming from the water that's seeping through our grounds, that's seeping through our wetlands, that's coming from our lakes. So we all do contribute to what's happening through or out of our springs. Not just the three first magnitude springs that we have here in the county, but all the springs that we have here in the county. So we do contribute, we all contribute. As was already mentioned, the county roadways, all of the county roadways are all collecting water. They all, they're impervious. There's stormwater runoff off of all of that. As we're sitting here in this meeting, we've got county buildings where there's stormwater that's running off. We all need to share, I believe we all need to share in the cost of treating that water, of capturing that water, of treating that water. Today's discussion, as has been discussed or alluded to already, This is about changing the methodology so that the methodology in which the funds for stormwater collection and treatment are addressed, and the methodology we're talking about gets more of us involved in paying for, again, the collection and treatment of stormwater, as well as meeting increasing demands that are coming from the federal government. So I too am going to support it, and I would support Commissioner Kitchen's, I don't know if it was a motion or not, that we include the hardships and the VA as well.
Davis, Clayball, sorry, Davis Clayball.
I want to thank you all for being here today. Holly, Commissioner Davis and I are going to have 1 year. And as hard as we have been working, as hard as I've been working for the citizens of Citrus County, I do find it a bit insulting to say vote them out, because that doesn't help the situation. So I had to prepare a little bit because I spent a tremendous amount of time researching this, talking to staff, talking to citizens, talking to the experts. So, you know, obviously I want to thank you all for being here. For everybody that emailed, I read them, I heard you. I appreciate the comments, some of them. I understand your frustration. I'm a taxpayer also. I understand that this is a time of upheaval and we are dealing with the aftermath of a pandemic. And people are still trying to recover financially from that. I've done a great amount of research, like I said, and pertaining to this fee. This fee is a tax increase, plain and simple. And I understand that we must address stormwater and protect our water quality. I'm a native Floridian. I understand that. We get that. But, however, I think that this proposed MSBU is too steep for our most vulnerable taxpayers. That's why I brought up if we could phase it in or do 50%. I still would like to talk about that. This is a tax that's even very steep for our employees, our staff. I consider that. I don't take this lightly. It's a big concern, but I don't believe this is a solution during these uncertain times. Unfortunately, not to bring up the past, but I was on the losing end of a 3-2 vote for keeping stormwater millage on the trim notice. I fear that implementing this MSBU will detrimentally impact the taxpayers that are living on a fixed income. And that this is a public hearing, but I feel that I haven't given the taxpayers enough options to try to figure this problem out. It gives the impression that you have no choice, but I don't believe that. I disagree with that. I think that there could possibly have been other funding sources if we had left the millage to be on the trim notice, or perhaps addressed the situation many years ago. But I do want to stress that my vote isn't to get reelected. And it will always be for the benefit of the citizen and that widow or widower or that young family. So please, watch your words when you're talking to me, because you might not have the opportunity to vote me back in. Thank you.
Okay, and I'll wrap it up. I've been here for 52 years, all my life, okay? And the water that I have seen sitting around Citrus County right now is never have seen it before in my life. And I know more buildings and things like that. And Mr. Hollins is dead right. That used to all drain out. Them dishes were clean, and there's things that need to be done. But again, nobody wants to do anything when it comes to raise taxes. Matter of fact, since 2014, we've lowered the millage rate every single year, okay? We don't like to put these things in place, but unfortunately we have. And I wasn't going to leave it on the, if we were going one way or the other, here's the problem if you leave it on the millage rate. The millage rate would have stayed the same, and we vote this in, then you'd have seen that money go over to the general fund, and that's double taxation. So that's why I voted to get rid of the millage rate. And I will not double tax. Yeah, it's a small amount, but it's about 1.5 million, I think, somewhere in there that would have rolled over to the general fund that could have been used for something else. And I didn't feel that was the proper way to do it. So this board did vote 5-0 to move forward. We do have red tide sitting off of our coast. I've never seen that before, ever. 52 years, and I'm on the water all the time. You can't speak anymore. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
No, ma'am. So again, it's not something we want to do, but when we're forced, when we're forced to handle it, and the cities, one thing I want to let you know, the cities are going to have to do, they're doing their own thing also. These mandates are on them too. Those residents in Inverness and the residents in Crystal River are going to have to pay their share for the cities to do their stormwater mandates from the federal government. They have no choice, just like we don't. So with that, I think the commissioners have all made great comments here. It's not something I want to do, but it's something that we must do. We've got clean 3 magnitude springs here. We're just forced to do things. But anyway, this is a more equitable way to move forward, and I will support it also. So with that, I'll be looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question, and then I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
If I would like to include the hardship and the VA exemption, I noticed the language on B says provision of stormwater management, providing for hardship assistance. Does that also include the VA exemption, or do we need to add that to the motion?
If you want to make sure, if you want it to be clear, just say both.
Okay, great. So that's it, Mr. Chair. And first of all, also, well stated, well said. I agree with what you said, and what we're going to have to do is, and I think, I'm going to make a motion, but I'd still would like maybe for Mr. Oliver or our consultants to answer some of these questions that before we actually vote. So I do want to let the citizens that stayed know we're going to try to answer all the questions that we can. Hopefully, everybody over there has been taking notes. So that said, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt and authorize the chairman to execute a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Citrus County, Florida, relating to the provision of stormwater management services, confirming the initial assessment resolution, providing for hardship assistance and VA exemption, imposing stormwater service assessments against certain real estate in the unincorporated area of Citrus County established as a stormwater management area, approving the assessment role for stormwater service assessments, providing for collection of the stormwater service assessments, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date.
Okay, got a motion?
I'll second.
We got a second. So with that, before we take a vote, I would like for the consultant or our staff to come up and explain on, where will we be using this, moving forward, and how will the money be spent, things like that. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Board. Brian Kaufman, I'm the Citrus County engineer, and we take care of many, many miles of drainage ways within the county. A lot of people don't see it. We mentioned a little bit about Crystal Manor. Most of the activities that this goes into is actually doing work on the ground, cleaning the retention ponds, enlarging the retention ponds, like on Turkey Oak. We just cleaned those out and enlarged them, and as you can see, they're still not large enough. The roads are closed. Many of our roads are closed. And so this money will go into continuing that work of expanding our retention ponds. And so we have, better levels of service for the people. We all travel all these roads. And so really when you get down to it, how does it benefit me as a citizen? Our road system is the biggest benefit, and y'all mentioned that earlier. We all travel the roads, and that's the biggest benefit that the citizens would receive, as well as cleaner water leaving our road systems going into the lakes, rivers, and estuaries.
Okay. What other question you got?
Any additional
Question, sir?
There was one, well, and I guess it goes without saying, but there was a couple of questions, and I guess this might go to our staff. Is this legal? Those types of questions. Do we have to have a referendum? I believe somebody from Citrus Springs says we can't do an MSBU without an referendum. I know the answer to that, but perhaps staff should answer those kind of questions, so.
Is it legal? Yes. Do you need a referendum? No.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, there was, I think most of those were answered. I do want to say, Mr. Chair, though, before we call the vote, I totally agree also with Commissioner Schlabach and her comments. That's why I asked for the hardship component and the VA exemption. I understand that deals with people at certain levels of income, that it is a great hardship. Also, it should go without saying that the institutions that are exempted under fire, this is in that as well, right? That's our understanding.
That's correct.
That's the way that it'll stay. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page with that. And also that people should apply for the mitigation that's already in the ordinance that tells what they can do and how it's spelled out. So that's where we are.
And the last one, also is quick. This money can only be used for stormwater, correct?
Correct.
Correct. I want to make sure of that. Okay, with that, I'll have a roll call vote. Madam Clerk.
With all due respect, my question was never answered.
And what was your question?
My question was, first of all, you
Come up here to the mic.
Once again, this was a question I asked and it was not answered.
Come up to the mic, please, so everybody can hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Otis, Inverness. Once again, this county has grown immensely. I mentioned that. A lot of development. 34% increase in property values.
Please ask your question.
My question is, where is all the revenue that these people have paid and all the people that have come into this county, where is it going if it can't
All
cover
right,
the
thank
small
you.
amount
Thank
that
you.
you're
We got
asking
it.
for?
We got
Thank
it.
you. And I also
So,
believe.
Mr. Oliver, answer that question and let them
That
know.
answer's fairly straightforward. Remember, some of these developments were developed back in the 60s and 70s, and unfortunately, the stormwater controls back then were inadequate, to say the least. Additionally, as we add additional property and that had tax rolls increase, remember that we need additional roads, we need additional law enforcement, we need additional personnel in public works to be able to serve those additional constituents. We can't stay at the level that we currently are at.
Now, also, let's explain how much the portion of the taxes that are paid, what we really get, what others get.
Yeah, I don't have those figures directly in front of me, but yeah, the board's portion of what we control, because law enforcement is the largest single element. But remember, if your total tax bill, the school districts is about half of it.
Correct.
Okay, if you live in incorporated areas, you pay an additional tax for the service that they provide. You also pay to the water management district as well as mosquito control. And then certain funds come to the county, and then that's distributed between the sheriff, which is about 40% if my memory's right, the clerk, the courts, and all that. So the actual portion that comes to the county that the Board of County Commissioners control is not that great.
Yes. Thank you.
And I do think also that he had another question that kind of was in line with that, which, again, we know the answer to, but you may want to deal with it, and that was, I believe his question was, as more homes are built, will this MSBU be reduced? I think that same gentleman asked that question, implying would the cost be spread across more people and be reduced? I think what we're going to see as more people move here, the need for more improvements are going to happen, so I personally don't see it being reduced.
They're going to
but-
increase the stormwater runoff
Right.
because there's going to be more impervious area.
Right.
You're taking the money based on assumption. That's exactly what you're doing right now. Assuming.
All right. Any other comments, commissioners? Well, I'll go ahead and have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Kitchen?
Aye.
Commissioner Kennard?
Aye.
Commissioner Schleba?
Nay.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
And Chairman Carnahan?
Aye. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you. We're recessed until 5.